We'll go ahead and get started, but before we do, if you'll stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Covert will lead us in an invocation. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, we just thank you for this time, the opportunity to come before the city, Lord, to make decisions on behalf of our citizens. We ask that you guide us, give us wisdom as we listen to these items that come before us tonight, Lord, and make the best decisions for the folks of this city, Lord. We ask that you be with our mayor and his staff, with our president of the United States and his staff, Lord, as we move forward, and with the men and women of our military, Lord. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you guys for joining us for our September Planning Commission meeting. To order, we can do roll call.
Howard Austin. Gary Compton.
Here.
Roy Covert.
Here.
James David. Shannon Mueller. Peyton Parker. Kevin Parsley.
Here.
Ben Peters. Dale Tyler.
And the minutes for August, any questions or comments from the commission? I have a motion by Dr. Covert or Compton.
Second.
Promoted you there. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. There are a couple of items that we will not hear this evening. They're tabled. The first one is C21-19 Cooksbury Park LLC. That was tabled per applicant. The other one is B21-76 Michael Bowdry, 1801 Colby Circle. That was also tabled for applicants, so we will not hear those two this evening. First section is tabled items R21-47 Adams Family Properties LLC, 3357 Haverton Road, from A1 to SF3, presented by Expedient Civil Engineering. And when you guys do present, if you would just go up to that mic up there and just make sure you state your name and address for the record as well. Yes, sir.
Jason Engels with Expedient Civil Engineering, 9200 Stutz Drive, Bella Vista, Arkansas. Here to represent the applicant. A large portion of this property is in the floodplain, so that's why we're asking for an SF3 just to allow more of affordable home. So we're requesting A1 to SF3, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Staff comments?
The original application that came in on this piece of property was for a plan unit development. After meeting with the developer and talking through the requirements of the plan unit development, they opted to come back and ask for an SF3. The first notifications were sent out for the PUD. New notifications were sent out for the SF3, so we're considering the SF3 tonight.
Yes.
The comprehensive land use plan indicates medium density residential use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan and is recommended for approval. Protect the positive aspects of neighborhood character throughout the city. Ensure adequate land allocation for residential purposes by providing lots of adequate size, and encourage the development of a variety of housing types appropriate to the size and income of all households living and working in Springdale.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Be a call for the vote? Call for the vote. Call for vote by Mr. Covert.
Austin. Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
Mueller. Parsley.
Yes.
Peters. Tyler.
Rezoning passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, R21-48, Arnold and Lorene Hollingsworth, northwest corner of Highway 112 and Marchant Road, from A1 to C4 and C5, presented by Craft and Toll.
Hello, I'm Rachel Kaler. I'm here with Craft and Toll representing the landowner. So we are requesting, as stated, to rezone portions of this property C4 and then the portion along Highway 112 C5 And I believe if you scroll down into our application materials, we have an exhibit showing the different zonings proposed.
Staff comments?
You have legal prepared for each section to be rezoned? 4 and C5?
Yes, ma'am, they should have been submitted already.
Yeah, I didn't see them in the packet. They will need to be submitted if approved.
All right.
Okay, in the C4 zoning classification, which is the planned commercial, the only place I saw where you listed the uses that you intend to use was in the notice to the applicants. Can you go over the list of what proposed uses you're intending for this C4 zone to contain?
Yes, ma'am. So C4 will be off of, set back from Highway 112, and the developer is proposing a mixed office and warehouse type development, which will actually be seen as the large scale that's coming up later on the agenda. But it'll be mixed office and warehouse space.
Okay, so you want to restrict the use of this C4 to a use unit 16 and a use unit 21? Because the application notice that went to the adjacent property owners lists use units 1, 4, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 27, 32, 35, and 45. That's a wide range of uses that you just indicated you're not saying.
Right. So those were the possible uses that would be allowable if it was rezoned to C4 and there wasn't a developer specifically in mind with a project for the site. Since we submitted the rezoning request prior to the large scale, we didn't know specifically at the time what would be developed on this property. Now we know what the developer has in mind, and it will be office and warehouse.
Office and warehouse. So your rezoning request is being restricted in a C4, which has to tell us the uses that are being proposed in this development will be limited to a use unit 16, which is offices, studios, and related services, and use unit 21, which is trades and services, which is a small office with a warehouse.
Yes,
Correct.
that is correct.
Okay, so we need to amend that to include use unit 16 and 21. Because if you were going to allow things like restaurants, you don't have enough parking to accommodate those kind of uses.
Right.
Now, the developer has to understand he comes back for a different kind of use. The C4 plan district will have to be amended to allow anything else but those two. So you're ready to make that commitment.
As far as I'm aware, that is the intent for the developer at this time. If you would like us to go back and confer with them prior to restricting it, then we can do that.
You have authorization to represent them. Are you willing to make that decision for them is what I'm asking you. We move this forward with those two use units. That's all it's going to be. The question will come back to you. Are you ready to do that, or do you want to table it again? If we table it again, you will have to resubmit with the specifics of what you want that C4 to be.
Right. I think we're ready to commit
Okay.
to those specific uses.
Okay, so we would be moving this forward with those two use units recommended, okay, or restricted. In the C5 uses, those are uses 1, 4, 5, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 27, and 36, 42, and 45. And those are open to all of those that are permitted uses. Let's go back to C4. You're not asking for any conditional use.
Not at this time, no.
Okay. So that's where we move forward. Okay. The rezoning request is recommended for approval. Not knowing what they were going to submit as their restriction, I couldn't tell you exactly until I knew exactly what they were going to do.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Be a call for the vote. Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
Mueller. Parsley.
Yes.
Peters. Tyler. Austin.
This passes 7-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance. Make sure we have legal for that, different tracks, and I need a commitment in writing from the developer or from the property owner. The developer hasn't bought the property yet, correct?
That is correct. It was contingent upon this rezoning
Okay.
request.
The property owner has to understand that the restrictions are for C4 with those two uses only. They have to be willing to move it forward with that. And if the rezoning is approved and the sale doesn't go through, that doesn't change the rezoning.
Understood.
Okay.
So while we're working on this one, I'm gonna flip over to the large scale. That's all right with you guys on here. So Rick, I don't know if we can move to L 21-29. Mixed use Highway 112 and Marchant Road, northwest corner of Highway 12 and Marchant Road, presented by Craft and Toll.
Let me say the first comment is it's going to have that restriction on the large scale, that portion that is C4 is restricted to those two use units as well. Okay?
Understood.
Go ahead.
So yes, this is the large scale that is associated with the parcels that I mentioned. Basically, the developer wants to put 4 buildings on this property. You can see them on this overall site plan, and add in associated water, sewer, parking infrastructure, as well as a stormwater pond to treat excess runoff from added impervious area.
Staff comments?
Can you hear me? Okay. Other than standard comments, we have, for the variance app, we were needing the signing and dating of the application, as currently there were no signatures. Next comment had to do with the rezoning that we hashed out a moment ago. We need to remove the term mixed use from the plan set, as this is not a mixed use project by nature. So let's see. We need no more than 60% of the off-street parking area for the entire property can be located between the front facade within the front yard of the principal building and the primary abutting street, unless the building and/or parking lots are screened from view by outlot development, i.e., restaurants, and additional tree plantings and/or berms. And there's been a variance requested for this. Where a facade faces adjacent residential uses or an area on the comprehensive land use plan designated for residential use, an earthen berm shall be installed no less than 6 feet in height, containing at a minimum a double row of evergreen or deciduous trees planted at a 15-foot interval, plus all landscaping requirements set forth in Chapter 56 of the Springdale Code of Ordinance. A variance was requested for that. Internal pedestrian walkways shall connect focal points of pedestrian activity and feature landscaped areas along no less than 50% of their length. A variance was requested for that. A 5-foot wide sidewalk along the full length of the building along any side that features a customer entrance is required. The sidewalk shall be set back from the building foundation at least 6 feet to provide areas for foundation landscaping. Variance was requested for this. Foundation landscaping being required, a variance was requested for this. Provide at least 2 of the items listed under the central feature and community spaces in the Springdale Commercial Design Standard. Please see design standards for allowable amenities and indicate how the items provided will contribute to the enhancement of community and public spaces. And finally, submit a unified lighting plan per the Springdale Commercial Design Standard.
Before you move on to engineering comments, note on this, it said variance requested. The variance request was not signed, the fee was not paid, so the variance can't actually be heard tonight because it wasn't advertised, but they intend to apply for those variances. Okay? Katie?
Okay, for engineering comments, I have, since this is a retention pond, the building should be at least 50 foot from the top of the pond, and I do believe a variance will be requested for that. Submit a maintenance plan for the pond, submit the filed drainage easement, show details for the landscaped wall, replace the culvert under Marchant Road with appropriate size RCP, and this goes with
please show all improvements to Marchant Road and show existing and proposed streetlights, which I do believe a waiver has been requested for that as well. Add a note that pond will be sodded from the normal water surface elevation to the 100-year water surface elevation. Submit your grading permit application, and then any streetlights should be within.
Rick, can you move forward to the elevation pictures?
You have comments on this?
Do you want to address well, we don't have the variance request to discuss tonight because it wasn't vetted correctly, but if you want to go through the details of what the buildings look like, start with material.
Right. So the materials are called out on here. They're going to be architectural, precast concrete, I believe, and they're going to be white in color as shown on these are color elevations. There will be awnings provided over the entrances to the public access, and those glass front garage, or the garage doors shown will be glass front to break up the building frontage. And there will be entrances on both the front and back, and then we're going to ask for, on the one building where there's building facing Marchant Road, we are going to ask for a variance to not have a public access door on that side because the pond is on that side, so we don't want a possible hazard with, having sidewalk right next to a pond. Even though there should be enough space, we just think that it might be better to avoid that situation.
So all of the sides will have concrete tilt-up panels.
They're not tilt up. They're architectural precast concrete, which is allowed.
Okay, all four sides.
Yes.
Anything else? Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
I'm the one preaching about
Well,
microphone and not
I
turning
guess
it
the first comment I have on here is that it's really hard to be able to approve a large scale with that many variances that haven't been fully submitted.
I was just going to comment on that. I mean, you're being asked to approve a plan that doesn't meet the city's requirements without the variances being approved. If it is approved tonight, the plan doesn't meet the requirements, and therefore they can't move forward with it until those variances are granted. It's usually better if we do all these things at the same time.
Right. And that was a misunderstanding on our part. We submitted the variances and the large scale at the same time and weren't understanding that the date for the variances was a day before the date for the large scale. We thought they were supposed to be submitted as a single package. That was
But you didn't
mistake.
submit signed ones and a fee for it. I mean, the date is not near as important, is that the variance request was not signed, nor did we get the fee for the variance request. So that's a little bit concerning, but I think the date is pretty close. I mean, we would have made it with the date had you submitted the rest of it.
I understand. And the fee was, our office manager was out that week, and so I thought the fee had been paid, but again, it was our mistake.
Okay. Up to the commission if you want to hear it.
Well, I was going to say, would you be willing to table this and so that we could hear all of it together?
If that's what the commission would prefer, we can do that.
Okay. That would be what I would suggest.
Agreed.
Okay. So we'll table this large scale until the October session.
The rezoning request will go ahead and go to council. So that won't be an issue when we get next month.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And that's the waiver and the variance request and everything that goes with it. No. Did it have a waiver? Didn't have a waiver. Okay, never
No,
mind.
the waiver was for the other one.
Okay. Too many of them the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sorry for throwing everyone off, going out of order there, but figured we'd get them together. Next item, back on tabled items, R21-49, John Hendricks Properties LLC, 1146 Cooper Drive, from C2 to MF24. Presented by George Queens and Luis Velez.
Present. Should I introduce?
Yes, go ahead and state your name and address, please.
George Duquesne, 5104 South Pinnacle Hills Parkway, Rogers, Arkansas. The developer in this case is looking to do a multifamily project that has yet to be submitted, but he would like to go ahead and rezone this property to MF24. It's very much in keeping with the surrounding property from what we can tell. Yeah, perfect. So as you can see, there's a lot of MF24 around us, MF12 next to us. There's the industrial use. It seems to be a very good fit for the particular area that we're looking at.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates medium-density residential use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Protect the positive aspects of neighborhood character throughout the city. Appropriate locations for single-family and multifamily residential development should be provided based on accessibility, site suitability, utility, availability, neighborhood compatibility, and environmental factors. Ensure adequate land allocation for residential purposes by providing lots of adequate size. Encourage the development of a variety of housing types appropriate to the size and income of all households living and working in Springdale.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Yes,
I do have a written statement, if I may read it.
that would be fine. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
My
please.
name's Kathy Fields. I live at 1022 Cooper Drive, and my husband and I are the adjacent property owners. Okay? I'm sorry, I had to run.
That's all right.
I have lived my whole life in the city of Springdale, and I was born in Springdale Memorial Hospital 60 years ago, and I plan to be buried in Springdale. And when my husband married me 24 years ago, he moved to Springdale. My husband and I purchased our home on Cooper Drive in 1997, and we have lived there for 24 years. When we purchased our property, we were very comfortable with the zoning and the potential zoning of our property and the property surrounding our property. We have made a long-term commitment to our property, and we have made a long-term commitment to the city of Springdale. My husband and I strongly oppose the rezoning of this property. My husband and I live in the first house on Cooper, which is a dead-end street. Last month, my husband just happened to drive past our home and noticed a small sign notifying a public hearing. The top of this little sign was almost came up to my waist and was hidden behind a field of weeds that stood taller than I am. This sign was placed about 900 feet at the furthermost corner of this lot from our property. I had 1 day to prepare for that meeting. I never received any notification of an application for rezoning or of that public hearing. I've always received my notifications from adjacent property owners in the past, and signs have always been placed where they could be seen, every time except for one, and that was this same property, and that was a request for multifamily as well. All the circumstances were set the same, even the posting of the sign. I came to last month's planning commission meeting, and upon arriving, I was informed that the item that had been tabled and would be, that item had been tabled and would be heard at the September 7th meeting. So I left. After reviewing the agenda for that night, I noticed that this item had not been marked tabled, so I called the planning department and was told that the applicant had called about 30 minutes before the meeting and requested to table this item because they had forgotten to notify the adjacent property owners. The city's application processing procedure states, number 6, if the applicant would like to withdraw a request, the applicant may do so at the public meeting or in writing prior to the meeting. And number 7, an application may be tabled to a later meeting only by action of the Planning Commission and only after the commission had heard comments from the adjacent property owners and interested parties. The application processing procedure was not followed. we received our certified letter notifying us of the application and this public hearing. No posting of a sign indicating this public hearing was ever posted on the property. On the notification sent to us, the applicant indicates the purpose of their request was to develop. However, on their application to the city, they indicate the purpose of their request was to sell after rezoning. The financial gains of the applicant is not a good enough reason to rezone this property. Case law, McMinn versus the City of Little Rock, states rezoning is not justified by the mere fact that the property owner seeking the rezoning would benefit economically if the rezoning was allowed, or that the land would be put at its most remunerated use. Again, the financial gain of the applicant is not a good enough reason to rezone this property. Multifamily is not in keeping with the city's comprehensive land use map or the intended use of this property. This property has been rezoned to commercial, which is in keeping with the city's land use map and the intended use of this property. Commercial is also the allowed zoning of mine and my husband's property in accordance with the city's land use map. The land use map is the only thing my husband and I had that we could count on when we purchased our property as to what the zoning was and what the zoning may become. The applicant as well has the right and the responsibility to familiarize themselves with the city's comprehensive land use map and the zoning allowed and its intended use. Case law, Brooks versus the City of Benton, states the purpose of the zoning map requirement is so, after adoption, purchasers and users may acquaint themselves with the zoning restriction. The whole purpose of planning and zoning is to protect the public and provide orderly growth and development, and to protect the interests of the property owners by affording them knowledge of what current and future use will be allowed in any given zone. This rezoning goes directly against the intent of the city's comprehensive land use map and against the most basic intent of land regulation. Under the cities of Springdale's Code of Ordinance, Chapter 130, zoning ordinances, district regulations, MF 24 high density multifamily district, state, MF 24 districts are restricted to sites abutting collector or arterial street. Cooper Drive is a minor street that is also a dead-end street. Multifamily 24 is not even allowed on Cooper Drive under the city's own ordinance. There is only one outlet onto and off of Cooper Drive, and that is 71B. Last year, 2 apartment buildings with 24 units each, totaling 48 units, opened up for occupancy. The increase in traffic on Cooper Drive has been enormous, especially pulling onto and off of 71B. There are 3 more apartment buildings under construction with 24 units each, totaling an additional 72 units, bringing the total number of apartments to 120. Also, the Schmitting Center's driveway to their parking lots enter and exit onto Cooper Drive. I do not know how Cooper Drive is going to handle the increase in traffic, and that's without adding more multifamily zoning. I suspect that the reason multifamily 24 districts are restricted only to collector or arterial streets is for the public safety and to comply with National Fire Code. After reviewing the city's unofficial zoning map, I was shocked that on Cooper Drive, acre after acre after acre are indicated to have been zoned for high-density multifamily. This is not in keeping with the city's land use map, which indicates the intended use of the zoning of this area as commercial, medium-density residential, and low-density residential. This is also in violation of the city's code of ordinance that high-density multifamily is restricted to collector and arterial streets. I do not know how this was allowed to happen. The applicant's response on the petition to the effect of the proposed zoning upon the adjacent property and neighborhood is to bring it into conformance with surrounding zoning. What it does not do is conform with the city's land use map and the intended use of the property, or comply with the city's code of ordinances. I am asking this commission to vote against this proposal in keeping with the city's land use map, in keeping with the city's code of ordinances, and in keeping with state law. I plead with this body to stand up for my and my husband's rights and vote against this proposal and honor the state of Arkansas Constitution and the Constitution of the United States. I am submitting a written copy of my comments, which I just read from, to be entered into the record of this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Did you want to comment on any? Okay. Any other questions or comments? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mr. Covert.
Covert,
Yes.
David. Okay. Mueller. Parsley,
Yes.
Peters. Tyler,
Yes.
Austin. Compton.
I have 6 yes, 1 recuse, and 1 no. So the rezoning passes.
Staff will prepare the ordinance goes to council on the
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, C 21-14, Jose Martinez Sandoval, 3805 Kelly Avenue, use unit 44, mobile vending in a C2. Also has a variance 21-75 for deviation of utility requirement. Presented by Stephanie Guevara.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about this application?
We've been able
Yeah,
to
if
do
you can state your name and address.
Oh,
Sorry.
this? Oh, okay. Sorry.
State your name and address for the
Stephanie Guevara, and it's on Kelly Avenue Street on Springdale. We've been able to do the variance for the light, and it's on. We did the application, we turned it in. We're still working on the water part. We're gonna get like a 300-gallon that's gonna have the water, and then another additional 300 barrel that's gonna be for the dispensing. And he has a friend that owns a restaurant, and he will allow, if it's allowed, to get rid of like the oil that we use. I guess however the restaurants get, rid of that. Or if there is something else or another way that we need to do that, take care of that.
Do you have a health department approval to take your used oil to another location?
No, that's, I'm asking,
Okay.
what can we do to get that?
Well, that will be a health department regulation of whether or not you can do that.
Okay.
The wastewater that comes out of it, where are you disposing of that?
It would be in the same place if it's allowed. If not,
Okay,
we
now,
would have to
I don't
find.
think we allow you to take it to another restaurant to dispose of it. You'll
Okay,
have to come up with a disposal plan, either to take it to the wastewater treatment plant
Okay.
or make arrangements some other way, but we'll have to have that before this can move forward.
all right, okay.
Okay.
We weren't sure, that's why but the light is
Okay,
connected.
so you are getting a separate pole set for the utility so that you can plug it into electric?
It's already done. The company set up the meter and everything, and we paid all that, and so it was inspected by the city,
Okay.
and so that's taken care of.
Okay,
It's
so-
just the water and the oil thing.
Okay, those are still major issues before we
Yes.
allow you to do.
Yes.
Do you intend to drive the truck off-site to
No,
dispose
no.
of the water or to?
No, that's why it would be those that $300 gallon barrel. And so we weren't sure if there was going to be allowed, so it would be driven out to wherever it can be disposed.
And what's your water source?
That's what we're still working on. We didn't want to go further until we were okay that that would be allowed, or what we have to do to move forward, like you said, on what.
Okay, how many parking spaces are allotted on that
It's-
site outside the fence?
¿Cuántos eran? ¿7? 7.
Okay,
7.
and those are for the public to come visit
Yes.
that establishment, which is
Yes.
what?
Yes.
What kind of use is that property?
What was it? I'm sorry?
What is the property used for?
The property, he rents it from someone, and he has a different where
Okay.
it's granted, but
Okay.
the parkings is for that one, and the building has additional parkings for that.
But they're inside the gate,
Yes.
right? The additional parking spaces for employees of the Granite businesses inside.
Yes, and
gate
it's
itself.
paved. Yes, that's
Okay.
that's separate. Yes.
Okay, ingress and egress to the property is acceptable. The off-street parking we just talked about. We still have that issue of how the gray water's being handled and fresh water being brought to it. That still needs to be taken care of. You don't
The
have a.
parking,
I'm
well, I
sorry.
mean, when I'm looking at the diagram of the parking, I mean, you've got 9 spaces total.
But most of
Between
the
two
parking,
buildings.
the parking is inside the fence for the employees and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
If you count the parking just for the office facility, for people coming in, they have enough spaces for that. We're being very lenient on that,
Okay.
okay?
Sorry.
Screening is not applicable. The signage will be on the truck itself,
Yes.
okay? The site plan was not drawn to scale. It's really kind of hard to tell, but by looking at it, it looks like it works. This one's just kind of tough. It's a very tight location.
Yes.
As a conditional use, it's not guaranteed to stay. If we have problems with it, it may be that we have to pull a conditional use for it. It's just a hard one. Let's
I
put it
have a
that way.
question. How far does the trailer have to be from that gate? Like how many feet away from it?
Ed, is there a building or a fire requirement, the distance from the gate?
That building really doesn't have a fire access road going down it, so it could be anywhere, but I mean, the standard for a fire access road is 20 feet for the gate, so I think that's the width of the gate easily.
Okay, so you're saying it's okay?
It can't block the gate. I'm sure that the owner doesn't want to block it.
Okay.
Okay. There are still the issues of, and I hate to say I recommend it because I don't know how they're gonna handle the water in a wastewater situation.
Mhm.
Um,
Like I said, we weren't sure. That's why we came here to ask, and so we can find out. Then you said with the city of water, or
Well, you need to get your health department.
The health department.
Approval for them
Okay.
to tell you how you have to dispose of the wastewater.
okay,
And what your water source is, and then you need to come back with us once you have that established.
all right, okay, we'll
Okay.
work on that then.
So we probably, I hate to do this and table it again, but you're gonna have to notify the adjacent property owners again, because we still don't have all the details worked out,
All right, okay,
okay?
all right, we will. Thank you.
We're tabling the whole thing?
She's still here.
Mhm.
You also need to check with the water utility. They have to approve of your off-site waste disposal.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you want to check with them too, because they have to prove wherever you're saying you're disposing of it at.
all right, okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the tabled item section, L 21-27, Cards Recycling, 1609 Old Missouri, presented by McClellan Consulting Engineers.
There were several questions from last time. Do y'all want to start and just kind of explain the operation of this facility before we get into those other details again?
Yeah, that's what I figured. We kind of just
Okay.
recap where we left off last
Okay.
time. Chris Bakunis with McClellan Consulting Engineers. I realize this is not the typical type project, so I know you all had a lot of good questions last time, and hopefully we can bring some comfort tonight by running through some of this information. As a quick recap, I'll just run you through the questions that you all had last month. I also have Dan Christensen and Jason Fitzgerald with us tonight from Cards, who can answer any additional questions for you as well. This will be a multi-phase development. The first phase will focus on a waste and recycling transfer station for use by Cards and the public. Waste and recyclables will be brought on site. Recyclables will be stored and then sold to third parties. Waste will be collected and transferred out to landfills. All handling of and storage of waste and recyclables will be contained inside the proposed building. All waste will be transferred off-site within 24 hours from the time it enters the facility. This is not only required by their permit, but is a way to mitigate odors, vector, and pest. The tipping floor will be cleaned on a weekly schedule. There will be a perimeter fence around the property, which trash will be picked up daily. The hours of operation will be from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Saturday. The facility in Phase 1 will staff approximately 8 employees, one which will run a loader inside the transfer station portion, one to operate the scale at the scale house, and then 6 to assist with sorting recyclables. Phase 1 will include employee facilities in the scale house located adjacent to the transfer station. This will include the restroom facility for them. Additional landscape material has been added along the perimeter and interior to meet code and better provide a buffer for adjacent properties. Last month, we discussed the possibility of a non-compliance issue with the Cards facility on Johnson Road. After further discussions on this matter, it was determined that a violation had not yet been issued. However, Cards would like to be proactive and does plan to do a screening fence and will submit plans to enlarge their parking lot and add additional paving for their equipment out there. Although there is no architectural facade requirements in industrial areas, Cards does take pride in their work and would like this facility to go above and beyond the code. Phase 2 of the project will include an office building and truck shop, which will meet the intent of the commercial design standards. So what Rick has pulled up is a precedent photo. This is a building that is in Neosho, Missouri, and this is what Cards would like to model their facility after. So this would be what you would see directly from Old Missouri, and would be screening the more industrial portion behind this building. And then finally, a variance has been requested to allow the scale house to be located within the 50-foot boundary of the retention pond. The structure will be elevated on a concrete slab to reach the height of a truck on the adjacent scale. This increasing the freeboard is beyond what the code requires. With that all said, I would like to turn it back over for any questions. You guys have anything to add?
Patsy, staff comments?
Well, let me start with the variance request for the distance from that is not a variance that the planning commission hears. It's a variance that the engineering department will have to address. And Katie, can you address that variance request? Do you have a position on that?
So the engineering department usually does not take a position against what ordinance says. So are you saying that the planning commission would not vote?
It's not a variance that is heard by the planning commission.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to have to be worked out between the engineering and the developer to see what that is. Now you're indicating that it's going to be raised above the ground level so that the height of the berm for the pond would not be compromised any then?
Correct, and I'd have to go back and review the letter, and maybe Katie, was it 6 feet that we had from the top of the water to the finished floor elevation for the
I think that's
structure?
what I would remember. I know it is outside of the 20-foot drainage easement. So if it was a dry pond, this would be permitted. And it's elevated well above the height of, I think my comments say finished flood elevation. It's supposed to be finished floor elevation of the building is well above the flood level of the pond. And if the pond were to overtop, I don't think that scale house would be at any increased risk of flooding.
Okay. So those details have to be worked out on your development plan so that that structure is raised high enough that it doesn't really need a variance. That's what we're
Okay.
saying, correct?
So that's just
Well,
administratively
it's not a
approved.
height issue. It's that retention ponds that hold water require a 50-foot setback from any buildings, and this building is within that 50-foot setback.
Taylor? We have a question for you because the planning commission is not listed as the body to hear this variance request. So how do we proceed with this?
And this variance request, just to clarify, what section are we under? Is it?
We're under chapter 106, the drainage criteria manual. It's section 5.4.3, which is a permanent lake. And it indicates that permanent lakes with fluctuating volume controls may be used as detention areas, provided that the limits of maximum ponding elevations are no closer than 50 feet horizontal from any building and greater than 2 foot below the lowest sill of the floor elevation of any building. And so you're saying Chris, that it doesn't meet that? Okay.
And what has he asked you guys to hear tonight that you can?
Okay, how close to that? How much are you encroaching into that 50-foot?
I think the distance from the top of the pond is 26 feet.
Yeah, I don't know that kind of stuff. Somebody else have to address that, not
So
me.
it's required 50, and I think they've got 26.
Your question is that a variance does have to come before us.
Well, I don't see this in the drainage criteria manual that the planning commission hears that variance request. And I sent the information to the city engineer on Tuesday, the 31st, asking that question, and I didn't get a response. So I don't really know who hears that request. And it may be that we have to table that request and come back and figure out who actually makes that decision. And we can move forward with that. Is there a way to relocate that where it's outside that, where there's a variance not needed?
Pretty tight there. I'm not gonna say that it's impossible, but there would be quite a bit of rework.
It's the only location that the scale house can be then, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, I mean, just logistically, how trucks move through the site and then where the pond is located and the low point of the site.
Can
And
a
I've-
pond be elongated another way so that it's narrower and not as close? I'm not designing at the
Yeah.
table either. That's
No,
not what
no,
I'm
we-
here to
we-
do.
we could
I
look at
just-
it,
We
though.
have an issue that hasn't come up before. We don't know how to deal with it.
I think it would probably be safest for them to get that issue resolved before you guys vote on it. I mean, I think that would be the safest course of action here.
Vote on the entire large-scale development plan, you mean, or?
I think, yes, to vote on the entire large scale, I think he would want to get that detail worked out first.
Okay, so the ball is in your court. Do y'all want to figure out a way to move it without asking for the variance, or do you want to table it again?
We have one comment real quick. If this could help, do you think you could switch the scale in the way house, where the way house is closer to the property line? And that would give you an extra 24 foot.
Yeah, we can do that because I've got the letter here. So we were 27 feet away. So yeah, we could
if you
meet the
swap
50
that, you
if
might
we
be able
did
to make
that.
it.
Okay,
The
so you're
grades work
with,
for a dry pond.
you're
or-
withdrawing that variance request then, and you're gonna make it work? Is that
Yeah,
what you're telling
yeah,
me?
let's withdraw that and then we'll resubmit plans that have that
Okay.
relocated.
I can live with that. Okay, other comments? Did we get through everything? Or have we even started? We haven't even started, right? Okay, let's go through the rest of them, sorry. I knew that was a big one. we
Thought
need
you were
to
gonna
get
be
through.
easier on us tonight.
Okay,
We got through the questions.
okay, sorry. That was a big one that was still out there.
Go ahead.
Want to continue or are
Either
you
one of
tabling
you,
the
I don't
large scale
care.
as well?
Doesn't matter, we need all of them.
All right, these are the rest of the engineering comments. Submit a filed drainage easement for the pond and a maintenance plan for the pond. Submit the grading permit application. We'll address the issue with the waste scale building, and then any public streetlights should be within the right of way.
Outside of standard comments, and of course, I spoke with Chris this afternoon and discussed all of these. So, in details sheets, please provide the following typical dimensions for regular parking as well as handicap parking. Please show the width of handicap access area as well as the details of the handicap parking signs. All storage areas are to be paved or chip sealed, and there was a variance requested for that. Frontage and perimeter landscaping is required in accordance with Chapter 56. In the event that this is to be included with Phase 2, applicant must provide bond until the time comes that Phase 2 is applied for with full landscaping plan. Full landscaping plan for current phase will need to be provided in order to indicate the correct amount for which to bond, and I believe that you have an answer to that last portion.
Yeah, so on the resubmitted plans, we included a chart on the landscape plan, which has the material that would be required if the project was going all the way to Old Missouri right now. So there's an exhibit in there that shows the delineation between Phase 1 and Phase 2. I will note, if you're looking at that, the numbers are backwards, so it should say Phase 1 there going vertical, and then as well as up front. So Phase 1 is the western half, Phase 2 is the eastern half.
That eastern half is on the right, so that would
Yes.
be Phase 1,
Yes.
and then the western would be.
Correct. And then if you go back one sheet, that's where that chart is that I referenced. To 6.0. Okay. All right. Well, it's in the set.
Is that it? Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience?
I have one more question. The areas that you are not paving are the areas that you are putting containers on?
Correct.
Go-
Yes.
go on up.
For
Okay,
equipment only.
okay.
Yes, James Pickney with Imperial Food and Coffee, 1505 North Old Missouri Road. We would be, if this project is completed, we would be the neighbors just to the south of America. Our biggest concerns, anytime you bring in trash, you have a rodent problem, you have a stench. Anything that's gravel is all dust. We're handling food right next to it. And we have spent an untold amount of money to make sure our facility is taken care of properly. So just to make it short and sweet, we're against this project. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
Just a couple quick questions. The Phase 2 that you will build, will it look exactly like Phase 1, or is it a completely different style of building?
Completely different style.
Okay. And is it just all concrete, or what does it look like?
So the Phase 1 would just be a metal structure. And then Phase 2 would be something that meets a design standard. So it'd probably be some kind of masonry, concrete panels. We can pull up that picture. Yeah, so that one looks like it has some different kind of architectural panels on it. Would have glassing.
Okay. And to address the gentleman's question that was just up before you, what is the plan for any type of odor or smell that may come from the trash and refuse? As obviously it will from that type of product.
It's my understanding, and I'll defer to these guys to elaborate more, but it will all be inside a closed facility. And then since the waste is not sitting there on site and is moved within 24 hours, that's what mitigates those issues. Is there anything else you want to add?
So it's enclosed 24/7. It's never opened up in summertime. We don't roll up the garage doors. It's closed in every day of the year, correct? Is that what you're saying?
For operational use during the day, I believe the doors will be open, but at night those will be shut.
Okay.
And all the containers that are being stored there will be empty and clean.
Yes, yes, the ones in the back will be,
Okay.
or all of them, I guess, on site.
And what is your timing, you think, on phase 2?
Within 6 months of this project starting construction. That's when you
Okay.
want to submit plans or when you want to start construction with this one? Construction? Okay. So 6 months to start construction from when this one breaks ground.
So we should have plans fairly quickly then.
Correct.
Okay.
yes.
And I have to remind you, this is an industrial area, so commercial design standards does not apply. And that's why we asked them to kind of show us what the building was going to look like. They understand that it's a good idea if the building looks good at this location. And so that's the pictures that they submitted today. And to answer the questions, it's not a question of whether they can go there or not. The question we are discussing and looking at tonight is whether or not they can meet the city's minimum standards for construction in an industrial use. So what we're trying to do is make sure that the site is well screened with landscaping, that, the paved areas are taken care of and the operational. They also have an ADEQ permit, correct? That they will have to meet their requirements for waste management. And they also have a letter of need from the Boston Mountain Solid Waste Organization, and they work through that group too. So there are other organizations that will be monitoring what's going on at this location as well.
From last month to this month, thank you for all the detail.
Sir.
The landscaping, the screening, everything that you've provided is much, it helps us a great deal. So thank you for that. Not necessarily germane to this project, but did I hear you say that there's going to be some effort to work with the site on Johnson Road? Did I hear that?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're going to be doing a screening fence, and then they want to come back and do additional paving with that project as well.
Okay.
So I think the screening could probably start without a permit. Obviously, the paving would need to go through large scale development.
As a resident of Southern Springdale, that would be greatly appreciated to tackle that. So thanks for that.
Would this upgrade on the Johnson Road site come in about the same time? Second phase, or before maybe?
In the letter I put by the end of the year, we'd probably need at least a month or two to get plans developed for it.
What is it?
So, yeah.
Closer than it sounds like.
Any other questions or comments? I would echo Dr. Compton's comments as far as appreciate the due diligence to come back with more comprehensive details in there. I do share the concerns of the gentleman that did come up and speak. You've got two food facilities that are just south of there. You have a baking facility. You also have as far as the coffee. I know those are things outside as far as what we're here to look at as far as minimum standards in that. But as far as the due diligence, as far as screening and things like that, to make sure, I understand as far as the doors being closed at night, but during the day, there's a lot of wind through that area there. And so just continue challenge and work towards as far as how we can protect those other businesses around that area would be greatly appreciated. You also heard me say, Bruder across the street has a beautiful facility, it has soccer fields. There's a lot of people that come into the city of Springdale, and this is the area that they see. And so we want to be proud as far as the diversity, as far as how our city is laid out, the industrial park areas, the residential areas, and all those different things on that. So, we're very much in favor as far as to help businesses come in, but this is an area that has a huge opportunity to really set some standards in it. And I think you've got a couple of businesses that have already set those standards. And so the expectations are high, and I would hope that you guys do live up to those as well in that area. That's just the comments that I had associated with it. This would be a motion.
Motion, subject to staff comments.
A motion by Mr. Covert, second by Dr. Compton.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David.
This passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next section, rezoning. First, rezoning, R21-50. Taqueria Guanajuato LLC and Benigno Morales, 1019 West Sunset, from C2 to C5, presented by Expedient Civil Engineering.
Jason Ingles with Expedient Civil Engineering, 9200 Suitsos Drive, Bella Vista, Arkansas. The applicant is wishing to remodel an existing structure on this property and put in a drive-through. That's his intent, so that's the intent of going from C2 to C5. I believe last year they rezoned the property to the west of them from C2 to C5, and that was granted at that time. I'll answer any questions you have.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Improve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations, assure adequate land allocation for commercial areas of sufficient size and in proper locations, and encourage the development of a wide range of commercial development for the residents and tourists to include neighborhood, community, and regional centers.
Any questions or comments from the audience?
Good evening, Corporal Rabbit, Springdale Police. The only issue that I possibly foresee if we rezone this to C5 would allow for entertainment, bars, taverns, things of that nature. As a restaurant type facility, they would be able to do everything they want under current zoning. I suspect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say the drive-through is what drives it to be C5, and that's what they're requesting. Otherwise, C2 would work.
Thank you.
I believe there's an exemption under 17A that's allowed in C2.
Are they looking for a restaurant or are they looking for some other type of use?
Yeah, what happened is they couldn't financially do the project at 1075 West Sunset, so they also own 1019. So they're going to renovate the existing structure, put in a drive-through, and have a smaller scale restaurant until it grows enough. Then they'll, because there was an approved large scale for 1075 that they did not build, but they weren't financially feasible to do. So they're wishing to do this as a smaller scale restaurant, same concept, same food, and that sort of thing.
With the understanding that that large scale approval is only good for a year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? To the commission?
So then to the officer's point, are they able to leave it as C2 with the amendment versus going to C5? Is that something they are okay with? If it's just the drive-through?
A possibility I have to look. I didn't get up earlier today. C2 allows for a 17B, is it?
Can I have a drive-through?
17A is allowed. Yeah, so you can do a drive-through without rezoning it. C5 as a 17A because of the size of the structure itself.
I see. They're not here tonight. At least I don't think they are. I'm representing them. I couldn't answer that question.
So you want us to go ahead with the rezone request?
Yeah. If it's denied, then I guess we can come back with the 17A, but without conversing with them.
If it's denied and you want to use the 17A, you don't have to do anything.
Correct.
Be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. Covert.
Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
No.
David,
No.
Mueller.
This passes 6-2.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council.
I have a request. I have another item on the agenda. It's a variance request. I have another planning commission to go to. I asked that I could be heard now for that variance. It's the Gus Roofing project.
Okay. B 21-71 Gus Roofing, 4211 Dixie Industrial Avenue. variance for deviation of driveway separation from 150 feet to 116 feet, presented by Expedient Civil Engineering.
This project was approved last year or early this year, I believe. At the time when we obtained approval, we requested some variances. The driveway separation was not included. It was later discovered by planning staff that we needed to get a variance for the driveway separation. The nature of this business and the approved large scale, we need both driveways, and the property is not wide enough to get the 150-foot separation. This is in an industrial area. I don't think that we would be impeding any rights by allowing a variance. And with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
Staff comments? Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Be a call for the vote. Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Peters. Tyler.
Yes.
Austin. Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Mueller. Parsley.
Yes. Variance passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, R21-51, Mayetta Matthews Revocable Trust, 515 East Highway 264 from SF1 to C2, presented by Mike Overton.
Mike Overton, 3511 Normandy, Springdale. This is a quarter-acre tract on Highway 264 that's surrounded by other C2 properties, so we're requesting this be rezoned to C2.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Improve the city's economic base and tax structure through the promotion of healthy, stable commercial concentrations, assure adequate land allocation for commercial areas of sufficient size and in proper locations, and encourage the development of a wide range of commercial development for the residents and tourists to include neighborhood, community, and regional centers.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? A call for a vote. Call for the vote. Call for a vote by Mr. Covert.
Tyler.
Yes.
Austin. Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Mueller. Parsley.
Yes.
Peters.
This one passes 8-0.
Staff will prepare the ordinance. It goes to council on the 28th.
Thank you. Next item, R21-52, Springdale Public Facilities Board, portion of parcel 815-22505-172-2284 East Emma Avenue from A1 to I3, presented by ESI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Apple with ESI. We are here requesting a portion of this property, which is about 4/10 of an acre, to be rezoned from A1 to I3. I'll answer any questions.
Staff comments?
This property was purchased by the Public Facilities Board after the other property was acquired, we think, or it just got left out in the rezoning. It will abide by the same requirements as the I3 for the rest of the technology park, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The comprehensive land use plan indicates commercial use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping. The following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Encourage the development industries that further diversify and stabilize the city's economic base that are compatible to the labor force, raw materials, and industrial climate, and provide space for new and expanding high-technology industries with low environmental impact, and assure adequate land allocation for industrial growth protected from encroachment by non-industrial uses.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Call for the vote. Call for vote by Mr. Covert.
Austin. Compton.
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Mueller. Parsley.
Yes.
Peters. Tyler.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 28th.
Next item, R21-53, Mustafa Obadat, Kimberly Donald, Gina and Lynn Roberts, 1 acre of southeast corner of 21-00126-000 at 4973 North Graham Road from A1 to SF2, presented by Mustafa Obadat and Kimberly Donald.
Yeah, so we bought this property last year, about 5 acres. We're splitting off the 1 acre off the southeast part of the property to build an additional home on it. So we're asking to rezone it from an A1 to SF2.
Staff comments?
The adopted comprehensive land use plan indicates low-density residential use for the area. The rezoning request is in keeping with the following goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan is recommended for approval. Protect the positive aspects of neighborhood character throughout the city. Assure adequate land allocation for residential purposes, providing lots of adequate size, and encourage the development of a variety of housing types appropriate to the size and income of all households living and working in Springdale.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Call for a vote. Call for the vote. Call for a vote by Mr. Covert.
Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler, Austin.
This rezoning passes 8-0.
Staff
you.
will prepare the ordinance that goes to council on the 28th.
Thank you.
Next section, conditional use, C 21-20, Brothers Rentals LLC, 1815 Bitter Lane, use unit 4, cultural, recreation, and health facilities in an SF2, presented by Zachary Brothers.
Hello, my name is Zach Brothers, 222 West Allen Avenue, Springdale. Long-term Springdale resident, and I've lived in Northwest Arkansas for 40 years. I have a statement that takes about 2.5 minutes. Northwest Arkansas is being called the mountain biking capital of the world. And in reference to our mountain biking trails, industry insiders are using words like Mecca, Disneyland, and gold. And they're calling our area a modern mountain biking landscape, much like a ski town is out west, only we'll be riding for all 4 seasons. A lot of this is thanks to a group called Oz Trails, an entity that has developed trails across Northwest Arkansas. The Oz Trail in Springdale is right over here on Fitzgerald Mountain. Fitzgerald Mountain, I quote from the Oz Trails website, where you'll find ribbons of dirt punctuated by stretches of boulders that have been expertly knit together into swelling waves of trail. I think that's all pretty exciting. This leads to my conditional use request. My partners and I have purchased a 6-acre parcel on Fitzgerald Mountain that has 2 of the amazing Oz trails crossing the property. I'm requesting a conditional use approval for a primitive campground. I've interviewed many mountain bikers recently, and they say there's a need for more camping near the trails. They say that most mountain bikers who visit the area camp at Blowing Springs in Bella Vista or Kohler in Bentonville, and I'd like to offer a camping option right here in Springdale at Fitzgerald Mountain. I believe this piece of land isn't just a good fit, but a great fit for a campground. A paved lane terminates on this property at a flat gravel area where I've already designated 2 parking spots that are large enough to accommodate the camper vans that many bikers are using these days. There's also room for additional parking spots on the south side of Bitter Lane. I developed a trail that connects the parking to the Butterfield Mountain Bike Trail, which is the first of 2 Fitzgerald mountain bike trails that cross the property. And I've communicated with a project manager at Oz Trails who gave his blessing to connect to the trail and wished me luck with this endeavor. I've developed the first 2 campsites next to the trails using native stones and pine needles, all sourced from the property. Another fantastic plus for this project, the restroom facility at Bayari Park and Pavilion is only a 1/4 mile away via the Butterfield Trail. Thank you for your consideration of a conditional use of this property for this exciting project.
Staff comments?
This is a totally unique project that we've never looked at in this area before. The ingress and egress to the property is acceptable. It's paved up to this property and it has room to turn around. You're proposing off-street parking spaces for 8 vehicles?
6 additional vehicles.
6 additional vehicles, okay. Refuge and Services, you're not providing any water, electricity, or anything like that
Correct.
to that site. All of the campers have to bring their own. And you indicated the facilities are at Byrie Park, which is at the other end of this trail.
Quarter mile away via
Okay.
the trail.
No screening is required. You have some primitive signs that put on the site itself that shows parking areas and directions, but you don't propose any other signs.
Correct. Nothing out at just signs on the property that I've already placed most of them.
No signs on the street, no
Correct.
signs at any place else off site. Generally, it's compatible with this area in its primitive stage. I think it's something that we have to try and see if it's going to work. We have some comments that have been received. I believe you got a couple of them in your packet from residents at 1862 Dodd Avenue. I can read those into the record, or y'all can stipulate that the ones that were submitted in your packet will be put into the record itself. Those 2 are in opposition, and then we received another one this afternoon from a resident at 1840 Dodd Avenue, and I believe those were put on the table for you tonight. Y'all want me to read these, or we just put these directly into the record?
These can go directly into the record.
Everybody good with that? Okay. Okay. Then it's up to comments.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, if you'll just go up to the mic and state your name and address, please.
Yes, I'm the one I'm at 1840 Dodd. My name is Ramona Latham. Yes, our property butts up against the property in question. And yeah, there's already signs there and everything that they've already it's a hip camp. Hip camp is primitive. That means campfires, no bathroom facilities. So they'll be burying their poop. And because it is too far on the trails to get to a bathroom. I'm sorry, it is. The trails are I live there. My husband walks the trails all the time. So they're not easy trails. You don't just walk to the bathroom. And that is very wooded and very pine droppings. And if they have campfires, I've Googled it. It brings down property value. This is a residential area. I last year had to replace a septic tank that cost thousands of dollars because that was the city requirements. And here we have a campground going in, and there's nothing there to keep them off my property. They can dump if they want. If you want to go poop, it's easier to go into the woods, and my property's wooded. So, if you go up, I guess it would be east, up mountain, the wooded area, he could go up that way. You could go up that way to go to the bathroom, but you'd be on the trails then. It'd be easier to go towards my property where they're I guess that would be to the south, to dump their trash, or because it's wooded area, nobody would know the difference. We've also found people riding 4-wheelers up through there anyway. So I just hope that the commission will not allow this to happen. There's elderly people on the property below me. They've been there for, 60 years. They're in their 80s. And actually Dean is 90. So I'd appreciate it if a fire happened or something and caught their property on fire. I don't know if they could get out. So I just hope the commission will consider not doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm next.
Yeah, if you'll pull that mic down, and if you'll state your name. and
Sorry.
address, that's all right.
I'm vertically challenged. I didn't hear anyone mention
Can you
that
state
you'd
your name?
received.
I'm sorry, can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes. My name is Janet Haley, and I live on Dodd Avenue, 2500 Dodd Avenue. And I'm also speaking for James and Tracy Haley. They live on 2700 Dodd Avenue. And my husband's in the audience too. He lives with me. I didn't hear y'all mention that you had received our letter that I gave to the Planning Commission earlier today. You got it? Okay. As stated, I live on Fitzgerald Mountain and have lived there with my husband and family since 1993. James and Tracy Haley have lived on Fitzgerald Mountain since 2009. It's a beautiful area to live in. We keep saying Fitzgerald Mountain, Fitzgerald Trails, and I don't know if y'all know the background of the Fitzgerald Trails, but the Walton Foundation, I understand, purchased the property and built these fantastic trails, as Zach mentioned. And they've left the mountain just intact. It's beautiful. They haven't scarred they put these little single track trails in for bicyclists and hikers to enjoy. And one thing I would mention is if there's anyone on the Planning Commission that is affiliated with Brothers Rentals LLC or Touted Properties LLC, or if this gets approved and goes on to the Springdale Council, if there's anyone affiliated with that, I would hope that they would recuse themselves from voting. I understand the city of Springdale manages the Fitzgerald Mountain Trails. I think it was donated from the Walton Foundation once they completed the work. The proposed primitive campground is in the city limits of Springdale and should therefore comply with city standards, rules, regulations, and codes. Our concerns, number one, why do we need a primitive campground within 50 feet of a city street? Are trail users looking for a closer place to park? Has the Walton Foundation asked for camping facilities to complement their trail? Fitzgerald Trail, in our opinion, is a day excursion. You can go in the morning, you can ride the trails, you can hike them, and by the afternoon, you've kind of seen it all, and you can go home to your home or hotel or wherever, and it doesn't need to be an overnight stay. My husband and I primitive camped some, and typically primitive campgrounds are found where you're going from point A to some destination, and that destination may be too far to get to in a day. So what you need is a waypoint to sleep so that you can finish your hike the next day and get to creature comforts. An example of this would be in Hobbs State Park, where you backpack way back 5 or 6, 7 miles in, and it would take you several miles and several hours to get back out. So you primitive camp, and it's right next to the lake. Another example of that is the Appalachian Trail, where people backpack into that area and do primitive campground, but not in a city, Our second concern is no restroom facilities. Like Ramona said, everybody around us has a sewer system or they're on septic. There's nobody that in this area, in our neighborhood, that goes outside. Even the recreational facilities in the city of Springdale, the parks along Razorback Greenway, they all have city water, or they have sinks and flush toilets. This proposed campground would be our westerly neighbor. And so as the crow flies, we're about 1/4 of a mile east of the proposed campground. One area of the campground is even marked group camping. Well, where are these people supposed to use the restroom and relieve themselves? And like Ramona said, going through the trail down across Dodd, through that trail, clear down to the other bathroom, to a bathroom, is, as a crow flies, it might be a quarter of a mile. If you walk it, I don't know. Anyway, it's not doable. There's no lights. You're in the middle of the night. I'd hate to make the venture down there. And besides, when you got to go, you got to go. Mm-mm. Fire safety concerns. As many as 90% of wildland fires in the United States are caused by people, according to the United States Department of Interior. Some human-caused fires result from, first one listed, campfires left unattended, the burning of debris down power lines, negligently discarded cigarettes, and intentional acts of arson. And the other 10% is lightning and lava, which I'm not worried about that. And this is from the Insurance Information Institute. The campground area closest to Bitter Lane has knee-high grass. There's no close access to water, no fire rings, no elevated metal three-sided grills. The upper campground, east of the barn, is very close to the woods with a lot of dead leaves and wood on the ground. Again, there's no close access to water. There is a fire ring, but the wood lying next to the fire ring would extend beyond the perimeter of the fire ring when burned. I feel like all homes and properties surrounding this campground would be threatened if an accident or negligent camper started a fire. Once the fire reaches the wooded area, it would be difficult, in my opinion, to extinguish it due to all the trees, rough terrain, and bluffs. Also, who's going to provide if there is campfires, who's going to provide the wood for this? You know, once they kind of pick up all the debris on the ground, are they going to go start chopping down green trees? And this is on Springdale Maintenance Fitzgerald Trail. So I don't know how they're going to get firewood. Again, the Fitzgerald Trail system can be seen in a day. No overnight stay is necessary. Number 4, insurance and accountability. The upper area of the campground has a portion of the Fitzgerald Trail running directly through the camping area. Where are the boundaries between Brothers LLC, Taldo LLC, and the city of Springdale? Who is legally responsible for an accident or fire in this area? Do both of the above parties have insurance with regard to fire damages or destruction of adjacent property? And if so, how much? Number 5, zoning. As stated, this is zone SF-2, which is low/medium single family residential. Where does a public campground with group camping fit in with SF2 zoning? I would prefer it to keep it SF2, which is low to medium density, single family residential. Attendant and supervision. Will there be an attendant on site 24/7 to supervise and manage guests at the campground? Will quiet hours be observed between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.? Number 7, registration. It appears, like Ramona said, that you're supposed to register online at hipcamp.com for the camping sites. Well, who's going to make sure that those sites are attended by registered guests? Who's going to oversee that? And we're also concerned about people transients just coming in and camping because there's a spot there, and we don't support that. Sanitation. We do not see trash containers in the area. Who is responsible for campground sanitation and cleanliness? In conclusion, it appears that these companies are trying to implement primitive campsites within the Springdale city limits. This proposed campground is not in a distant, secluded, primitive area of the country where sleeping facilities are necessary. Any business offering overnight stays should be held accountable to certain city standards, including a permanent structured restroom facility and close access to drinkable water. We would encourage Planning Commission members to visit and hike the Fitzgerald Trails to see what a beautiful gem we have in the city of Springdale. The scenery and birds and wildlife are here to enjoy. The city of Springdale has a responsibility to the Walton Foundation, who donated the Fitzgerald Trail, and the citizens of Springdale to set and maintain certain standards within their city limits. I don't know of any other primitive campgrounds within the city of Springdale. We don't think that the proposed campsite is a good fit with the adjacent neighborhood or the city of Springdale. And we would appreciate a no vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments from the audience?
Can I just say a few things
Yeah,
real
go
quick? And I'd be happy to talk to y'all afterwards if you want to talk directly to me. But I've never been in the business of doing anything that upsets people, so I'd love to be able to talk to you about it. I really like working on positive projects, and my wife and I are proud to live right here in downtown Springdale, and we're just trying to invest and do neat things where we live. And I really hope that doing something like this would be a positive thing for the area. I think that area is due to be developed in some way, and I think because the trails are there, that something like this would be one way to keep a lot of the character and wooded area there without really further developing it. I just wanted to say I do understand your concerns. I believe that camping in general is a really positive and healthy activity that's worth the risks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? To the commission? Yeah, Dr. Cobb.
I couldn't agree with Zach more on what Northwest Arkansas has become in terms of biking. It's really wonderful stuff. You see it everywhere. You go up to the Missouri line, you go all the way down here to Springdale, you can find great trails, great biking opportunities everywhere. What you see in front of the Jones Center, for example, the pump track, it gets little kids to big kids, and it's just really a wonderful thing to see. I drove up there on Friday afternoon after we got our packet. I also went up again today. I've camped all over the United States. I've camped all over Europe. I've camped in what was the old Eastern Europe. I know camping well. I am not so sure that just as one commissioner, I see the link between the biking enterprise and all that's going on in Northwest Arkansas in this particular adventure. I just don't see the link there. I see the potential for problems that could occur everywhere, every day. Recreational vehicles, you mentioned up to 84 people at a time, no bathroom facilities, no water, no power, fire pits, on and on and on. I just see the potential for more negative things to occur than I know you do for all the positive things that I believe, and I know in your heart you really believe that. It's just that as one commissioner, I see that not as something that really lends itself as an amenity to that area or to us as a community. With all respect.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I like the idea. I think I like the idea that there could possibly be camping, but I honestly don't believe this is the proper place for it. It's just, like Gary said, there's just too many things that can go wrong. Not that you would want them to go wrong, but in the long term, there's just too many things for me that would go wrong.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I, as part of my proposal, I did give some numbers and parameters. So I would like to say, based on some of the feedback that I've had so far, if there's a possibility to amend it as needed. I'm actually, 84 does, it sounds like a kind of a high number. What I'm really wanting to do initially is the part that I've already developed, which just consists of 2 parking spaces for the vans that you see the bikers using, and 2 actual spaces. I understand the fire concern. The fires would only be allowed, if approved, in actual fire campfire rings that are at the reserved spaces, not in the field area. The group camp idea that I have is not to fill up that field, but just to offer an additional space for some additional tents. So if there's discussion that needs to happen, like I said, I'm willing to look at some of the numbers that I proposed and say, hey, I'm very willing to scale back and start with something very small, which is what my intention is to start anyway. I just had hoped that if it happened and it was going well, that there would be an option to expand. So that's why I included the additional numbers in there. Hipcamp.com was mentioned earlier. Hipcamp.com is the booking platform that I have researched to use for this venture. If anyone is familiar with Airbnb, Hipcamp.com is a similar platform, but it's used for campers. So campers have to go in there and they reserve the site there, and they have to follow the rules that you have set up. They also leave feedback on there. So as an owner of a camping area, if I let it get out of hand, then I would get negative feedback, just as if I had an Airbnb property. So it behooves me to take care of it and make sure that it's something that I can maintain and be proud of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, if make it quick on here, okay?
He's talking about maintaining and taking care of it and keeping it really, I guess it'd be primitive but nice. If any of y'all been up, there's a concrete block structure that is in need of repair. One wall is cracked and almost all the way down. The ceiling has fallen in on itself. If a child went in there and started exploring, I would hate to think what would happen. There's also about a 10-foot by 10-foot sheet metal roof laying on the ground in that area. It's rusted, place for snakes, I guess. There's also an upside down rusted stock tank in that area. So to me, it's the signs have been put up, and about that's all I've seen that looks like has been made to improve it, to make it look like a nice campsite. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any of the photos by any chance?
We have them in our packet.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Zach, are you asking to change your conditional use request down to 2 large parking spots with 2 private tent sites at this point, or you want to let it go just as you submitted it with the group area and all?
What is the process if it is not approved to scale it down to the smaller version?
If it's denied, you have the right to appeal to city council. You have to do that within 15 days, saying why you think the decision was an error. If it's denied, you can't apply for the exact same thing within a year. Planning commission would have to determine that you've made enough modifications to hear a similar request again.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, I have a question. Sorry if you're finished. Has fire, are they required to have any comments? Have comments been sought from the fire department about the risk from fire on the property, or how it will be managed or could be managed since it's within the city limits?
I don't think have you had any discussions with the fire marshal?
No.
Ed, do you have any comments? That's still over there somewhere?
As with any recreational fire, it'd be limited to 3 feet and be in a proper fire ring. That'd be no different if you're doing it there or you're doing it in your backyard. Obviously, if there is a burn ban, you would not be allowed to burn it.
I guess what I'd like to say then is that as you, I know you've already discussed it amongst yourselves, but based on some of the feedback, can you all just tell me right now, would I be more likely to have this conditional use accepted if I scaled it down to the 2 van parking spots, 2 reserved campsites, and oh, okay.
I was gonna clear that up for Lorinda. We haven't discussed this any other place, okay?
Sorry.
I mean, we can hear it as is. And as Patsy said, if we deny it, then you can contest that with city council. When you go to city council, I think if you wanted to amend it down at that point, is that something that he could?
You can make an amendment at that time. If you get denied and you appeal it to city council, you could revise your request to the city council. City attorney's shaking his head that yes, you could do that.
Let's hear it as is, but I want concerned parties to know that my plan isn't necessarily to create this huge thing. My plan is really to start with the two reserve campsites and 2 van parking spots.
It's Patsy, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I was clear on what I heard. So from a fire standpoint, he's not asking to do anything that he wouldn't be allowed to do if he had a house, wanted to have a little fire in his backyard.
That's correct. That's what Ed was indicating. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
This be a call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mr. Covert.
Covert,
No.
David,
Yes.
Mueller, Parsley,
No.
Peters, Tyler,
No.
Austin, Compton.
This does not pass 6-2.
As I said, you have the right to appeal to city council. Your appeal has to be filed with the city clerk within 15 days indicating why you think the planning commission's decision is in error. You have to notify all the adjacent property owners, and then it'll be placed on the the city council agenda. More than likely, it will not go until the September 28th meeting because we have to have time to get all of the record prepared to send with the appeal, if you appeal.
All right, thank you. Next conditional use, C21-21, Mount Lee. 107 North Old Missouri Road, use unit 44, mobile vending, and a C2, presented by Mount Lee and Ting Her.
Hi, my name is Mao Lee. Live in 1256 South Splash Drive, Fairview, Arkansas 72701.
There's a mobile vending. Can you tell us more about what you're asking for here?
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Is there an existing food truck at this location?
Yes.
That was approved previously, and you are a new owner, a new operator of that existing food truck?
Yes.
Okay. So we had one that was approved previously. That was granted to one person at that location, and now we're changing it and requesting it to be conditional use given to you rather than the previous operator, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So
Sounds
the
common.
ingress and egress is acceptable, the off-street parking is acceptable, Refuge and Services will be handled the same way as it was previously, so will the utilities. There's no sign except on the structure itself. Yard requirements are acceptable. Landscaping is not applicable. It is generally acceptable with the following conditions. May not operate between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. No obstruction of parking spaces required for the operation of any other use on the site. Maintain on the site a minimum 3 parking spaces designated for their use. If a health certificate is required, display the health certificate in a manner visible to customers. No obstruction of pedestrian or motor vehicle traffic flow. No obstruction of traffic signals or regulatory signs. No vending upon a public way. Sound any device that produces a loud and raucous noise in violation of city ordinance or violate any other city ordinances connections with the vending operations. Keep the vending sites clean and free of paper or refuge of any kind generated from the operation of their business. All trash or debris accumulating within 20 feet of any vending stand collect and deposit into a trash container.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Have a call for vote by Mr. Covert.
David,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
This passes 8-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on the 28th.
Next item, C 21-22, Luis Alvarenga and Isabel Delgado, 2975 East Robinson Avenue, Use Unit 44, mobile vending in a C6, presented by Luis Alvarenga and Isabel Delgado.
Hi, my name is Isabel Delgado. And
My name is Luis Alvarenga.
the address is 2975 East Robinson Avenue. And we are requesting approval for our vending. It's going to be a food trailer. It'll be authentic Mexican food. We'll be serving tacos and burritos and quesadillas to our local community. It's a very busy location there. There's not too much restaurants, kind of like towards going to Sonora. So I think it'll be a very great location.
Staff comments?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Is the food truck to be placed on the side where the grass is or on the pavement side?
On the pavement.
Okay, and where, it's an auto car dealership?
Yes.
Where are the cars parked that are for sale?
So we're on like kind of towards the east side, and that would be, they have like their own entrance, and that'll be more like on the west side. So we'll have like the whole side on the left-hand side, pretty much.
Do they park their vehicles on the grass?
No.
Okay, I'm just really concerned about the dimensions. It doesn't look like there's enough room to put everything on there. How many vehicles do they have on site at one time for sale?
I'm not really sure.
They got about 8.
About 8 vehicles on that side.
Okay, you show 3 parking spaces that are adjacent to the building?
Yes.
Are those not used for the automobile sales place at that location?
No, that would be for our use only.
Okay, then where are their parking spaces?
They have their own spots like on their side, so they won't be using our parking spots at all.
Okay, I just don't see that on this drawing. That's one of those issues. It looks like the dimensions are off. There's not any dimensions on the drawing. It may very well fit, but I can't address that based on the drawing that was submitted to see that it meets those requirements. So that's my biggest concern.
Because there's 2 entrances, like there's one driveway that kind of goes into the main auto dealer part, and then there's another entrance, kind of like that would be, that entrance will go ahead and go directly to the food truck. And they'll have their vehicles like kind of like on the right-hand side. So the food trailer will be more like on the left-hand side.
Okay. It just looks tight when you look at the width of the driveway. That is my biggest concern as far as that's concerned. You're not hooking to any utilities. The
We'll
structure
have-
is totally.
Yeah, we'll have our own utilities. We're getting our own post as well, our light post. So.
Okay, so you do intend to hook to utility, to
Yes.
electric?
Yes. we
Okay, you have
already
to get a
paid-
variance to do that.
We already paid for the, like the Ozark Electric Company to have a light post there.
I understand, but we have to grant you a variance to do that because mobile vending like this is supposed to be self-contained. That has its own generator, has its own water and wastewater treatment. You're actually going to hook to utilities that's there, so you will need to file a variance request if that's what you intend to do. How do you
Okay.
handle your water supply and your wastewater? Do you take it off-site to a location that's approved by the health department and Springdale
Yes.
Water?
To the Springdale Water Utilities. That's where we'll be making our water drop off as well.
Okay, to the wastewater treatment plant? That's where
Yes.
you take it, okay.
Yes.
And you get your water from what location? At this site or someplace else?
At the same site.
Okay, okay, and you submitted that information to us?
Yes.
Okay. You have no other signage? Would there be signage on the trailer itself or the mobile vending?
Just on the trailer itself,
Okay.
not on the street.
Short of the compatibility with the parking spaces, which I can't really address.
Now,
it
we
is-
do have a generator, there, like, that's what we were gonna just stick with, just a generator, but we thought, like, in the long run, we thought it would be easier getting the electric post there.
Well, you can start with using the generator to operate.
That's kind of
If
what,
you want to attach to permanent utilities, you have to come and get a variance to be able to do that,
okay,
okay?
for the light, okay.
These would be the other following conditions that I just read for the other one. May not operate between the hours of 10 and 7. No obstruction of parking spaces required for the operation of any other use on the site. And that one I can't give you a firm answer because I don't know if it conflicts with that. Maintain on this site a minimum of 3 parking spaces designated for their use. If a health certificate is required, display the health certificate in a manner visible to customers. No obstruction of pedestrian or motor vehicle traffic flow. No obstruction of traffic signals or regulatory signs. No vending upon a public way. Any sound devices that produce a loud raucous noise in violation of the city ordinance or violates any other city ordinance in connection with the vending operations. You can't have any of those. Keep vending sites clean and free of paper, refuge, or of any kind generated from the operation of their business. All trash or debris accumulating within 20 feet of any vending stand collected and deposited into a trash container.
Is that it?
That's it.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? We'll call for the vote. Call for vote by Ms. Mueller?
Mueller,
Yes.
Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Conditional use passes 8-0.
Staff will approve the resolution. It goes to council on the 28th, and we need to verify the number of parking spaces
Okay.
before the 28th.
Okay, do I bring like pictures or what do I need to like verify?
Do you have a survey of the property that shows the actual dimensions?
I do, but not with me.
Okay, you need to
Like
bring
I-
it by the office so we can look at it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, will do.
And then the
Thank you.
variance for the utility.
Yes, and if you decide to use the permanent electric, then you need to apply for the variance.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Next item on the agenda is
Thank you.
C21-23 QOF Investment LLC, 909 Bacchus Avenue, Use Unit 44, Mobile Vending in a C2, presented by Gregory Brown.
My name is Greg Brown. 2080 East Joyce Boulevard, Fayetteville, 72703. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
There's the laundromat on this site already, and you're doing it on the very northern edge of this piece of property?
This would be the northwest.
Corner.
Correct.
Okay. Ingress and egress to the property is acceptable. The off-street parking and loading is acceptable. Refuge and service areas, I'm assuming you will have trash cans at that location that wasn't shown on your site plan?
There is a trash can on the property already,
Okay.
a 4-yard dumpster, yes.
And the truck that you're putting there is fully self-contained. There will be no utilities that have to hook up to, and you have arrangements with Springdale Water to dispose of the gray water at the wastewater treatment plant?
That is correct.
Okay. No screening and buffering is not applicable. The only signage will be on the structure itself.
That's correct as well,
Okay.
yes.
Yard requirements are acceptable, size and shape is acceptable. Again, it's generally compatible with the same conditions as the last one, and I can read them again if you want me to, but it's the same ones I just read twice. Do we need to read them again? Okay, everybody remember what they were? We're putting them in here again, okay?
Surprised you don't recite them by memory.
Yeah, I'm getting too old for that kind of stuff, if you want to know the truth.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mr. Covert?
Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller.
Conditional use passes 8-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on the 28th.
And so I'll need to attend the council meeting as well?
Yes.
Okay,
We
thanks.
encourage you to be there, yes.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, 21-24, Nancy and Mark Mabry, 1580 North Monitor Road, Use Unit 50, Agricultural Occupation in A1, presented by Nancy Mabry.
Hello, my name is Nancy Mabry. I'm at 1580 North Monitor Road.
Tell us what you want to do at that location.
I am wanting to start a small batch handcrafted candy business that I will cook in my kitchen because the state of Arkansas passed on July 28th the new Food Freedom Act that allows me to be able to do that in my own kitchen now rather than rent a commercial kitchen.
Ingress and egress is acceptable. Off-street parking is not applicable because this is a home occupation. Refuge and services are acceptable. Utilities are acceptable. No screening and buffering is required. You'll have no signage.
No signage.
Okay. Yard requirements are acceptable. Size and shape is acceptable. It's generally compatible with the following conditions. Proposed residential structure and or accessory structure must be contained on a lot, parcel, or tract that meets the lot minimums of an agricultural zone. New outside storage of materials required for the operation of the business. Operated only by the resident members of the household and shall not have any employees, concessionaires, or any other form of operator or helper, whether such business is conducted on the premises or off the premises. Requires the use of an area no greater than 30% of the total heated living space of the residential structure, or in an accessory structure, an area no greater than the size of the residential structure. Generates no traffic, parking, and sewage or water use in excess of what is normal for agricultural uses. Will not produce any fumes, odors, noise, or any other offensive effects that are not normal to agricultural activity. Stock and trade should not exceed 10% of the floor area of the accessory use. Will not require or cause the consumption of the premises of any food product produced thereon. Will not provide medical treatment, therapeutic, massage, or similar activities, and no alteration of the outside appearance of the residential and or accessory structure, provision of a separate outside entrance for the business areas of the residential structure.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mr. Covert.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller, Parsley.
Yes. Conditional use passes 8-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on the 28th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is C 21-25, Springdale Public Facilities Board, 815-28719-010, Angel Drive, tandem lot in a I-1, presented by ESI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Apple with ESI. Our proposal is to split this lot into two lots. The usable area, which is north and west of the railroad track, is currently under contract. The unusable area, which is the railroad track and the flood zone, will be a remnant that the facilities board will retain. I'll answer any questions.
Have comments?
And the access to that remnant will be along Angel Drive?
I believe it has access there, and then there's also a sliver down the mountain that has access as well.
Okay, that's what that long narrow
Yes.
strip is for as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Call for the vote. Call for the vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Tyler, Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters.
Conditional use passes 8-0.
Staff will prepare the resolution, goes to council on the 28th.
Next item, C 21-26, Wayne and Brenda Locker to Living Trust, APN 815-29349-000, Annie Laurie Avenue, tandem lot in an SF2, presented by ESI.
Thank you, Jason Apple with ESI. this is approximately 2 acres. We're gonna split in half, 1 acre, east and west. There was a right-of-way vacation that happened a month ago or so to vacate a portion of Annie Laurie. We are proposing a driveway into these properties, and I'll answer any questions.
Staff comments?
That driveway will be paved to both second lot.
Yes.
This is kind of a unique piece of property in an area that's developed around it. And so it's, I don't have any other comments.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
Call for vote by Mr. Covert.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler.
This conditional use passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is large scale. We have L21-30 wagon wheel storage, 3562 Wagon Wheel Road, submitted by Craft and Toll. It also has a waiver of 21-13.
Hi, my name is Libby Topping with Craft and Toll. This is a large-scale development with one warehouse office building and I believe 5 self-storage buildings. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Staff comments?
Okay, let me ask a question. Where's the variance request on this one? It didn't get filed either.
Yeah, just as the last one that we discussed earlier, it was, I believe, unsigned and it was a day late, and I don't believe there was payment either.
Okay, so we didn't get filed variance requests on this one, and you're requesting variances for most everything that is a commercial design standard, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Same situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, without having that in front of us, it's really hard for us to look at a full large scale on here.
Yeah, I understand. I'm happy to table it. Or were there any other comments that needed to be looked at?
If you will get with staff, we'll get you those other comments between now and the time you need to file your variance request. And if you'll schedule a meeting, we can go over all those that are still left. Okay.
My only guidance to you is that an excessive amount of variances is very challenging.
Yeah, and the nature of the variance is just because the self-storage doesn't lend itself to a traditional commercial design. So our goal was to try to incorporate the commercial design standards in the office warehouse where we can, and then, but many of the commercial design standards we're requesting waivers from were from an architectural perspective. So just.
Okay, let's sit down and go over those. Why the waiver for Wildwood Lane?
The only curb cut that will be on Wildwood Lane is an emergency exit. So just there won't be any increased traffic. The developer was requesting to.
Okay, I will let you all know that we're looking at a large scale on the other side for Carpet One, and they will be improving their side of the street all the way down to the southern end of this one. So keep that in mind. The other side of the street is being improved.
Okay.
You might want to think about that and consider whether you want to continue that waiver or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, actually, next section. Yeah, you can go and comment on it as well if you'd like. Yeah, go ahead.
It's going to come back again, but you can comment.
My name is Marlon Wallace. I live at 4810 Wildwood Lane, and my property and home borders on the north side of this development. And our questions were about the sidewalk variance, knowing that Carpet One has done some sidewalking along their side. And then she mentioned that it was only going to be used for an emergency exit, but I thought there was an ingress and egress into this storage facility about halfway up Wildwood Lane. So I don't quite understand just using it for only an emergency. We also have questions as residents with regards to water and sewer on Wildwood Lane and what they're going to be able to have to do on that project also with water and sewer.
Okay,
So-
they're not extending sewer to the northern portion of this property because it's all storage units.
Okay?
It doesn't require sewer and or water, except there'll
Oh.
be fire hydrants and stuff that are required on that end, but there's not any extension of the sewer services. And is the engineer still here? Are y'all proposing to hook onto sewer for the warehouse structures on the front? Okay, so it goes to that distance. If you want to come by the office, we can show you what they're
Okay.
proposing. Okay?
I think the neighbor had the comments too.
We have the property just north and east of the proposed large-scale development. I don't know for sure what all just happened in that process, 'cause I'm not familiar with this, but it appears like that since they're considering a self-storage, then it's going to they're trying to bypass all the normal large-scale development plans if it was more of what was planned, which was not originally a self-storage.
Well, they will still have to do a large-scale development plan, which is what we have. We just don't have all of the information. The variances that they're requesting and what the buildings look like did not get filed. And so the planning commission is saying they don't want to look at it until they have the complete package to look at.
Normally, we listen to the variances first and then vote on the large scale last.
Yeah.
Okay.
How it was presented tonight was vote on the large scale, and then we'll worry about the variances later. It's
Okay.
kind of backwards.
Because what we see happening is we've been waiting for development, and then all of a sudden now it's going to be self-storage, and there won't be any development in the utilities.
Well, self-storage units are allowed in that zoning classification, so that's not something that we can keep from happening. It's a permitted use in that location, and they don't traditionally have sewer services,
Right.
to all the units. Now, they have to have fire protection, but other than that, no sewer service.
So as residents, will we be notified again as to the next time this comes
No,
up?
it will be automatically tabled to the next meeting, and they don't have to notify you
So
again.
the next meeting, okay.
If we don't hear it at the next meeting, then they have to notify you again. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of a related question, and that is, it's probably been a couple of years ago, Sweetser got the ability to, or they were proposed to the Bethel Heights Planning Commission and got approval to put storage units at the corner of Robbins Road and Wagon Wheel Road. And they came in and stripped up all the topsoil and left us a mud flat there. So, I don't know whether they really, and then, of course, Springdale has acquired that from Bethel Heights, as I understand it. So,
I can tell you that the engineering department has reached out to ADEQ on the problems with that site, of the way it was handled while it was in Bethel Heights. They do not have an approved set of plans that they could start construction on anything today. They would have to come back through the process before they could build anything. And this project will be handled through our process. And, they only start construction after we get everything approved, and we monitor it as it goes through.
be a whole lot of storage space in our little corner of the world.
Again, that's a permitted use in that zone, and it's not this body's decision to make whether that's a viable project. The developer has to make that decision
I
themselves.
understand. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next section, Board of Adjustments. First item on here, B 21-65, Mark and Melody Sebastian, 2210 Wagon Wheel Roads, variance for deviation of driveway requirements expanding to the west toward the front door, presented by Mark and Melody Sebastian.
Hello, I'm Mark Sebastian.
Melody Sebastian.
Oh, 2210 Wagon Wheel Road.
Yeah, can you just tell us a little bit more about the reason for the deviation?
Oh, well, there's just a lot going on the east side of our house. When it rains, and it rains hard, everything that's coming off of Callahan Mountain, most of it goes over to that east side between me and my east neighbor, and even on the east side of him. It's a major drainage funnel for Callahan Mountain, period. I mean, that's where all the water goes. I think you have pictures of most of that. And I have a big tree in that area. I have two trees on my property. It's a big mature tree, and it's already covered up by a little bit of my driveway. And I did consult a tree expert and uh, trying to not hurt that tree by putting more concrete on top of it to go to that side of the house. And I mean, as I stated in my statement, it would be economically, I mean, better. I mean, you can see where I'm proposing to build my detached garage, and I don't think that's going to change much at all, uh, depending on which way I get or from which side of the house I get to it from. Uh, but I had that, all the, just all the water runoff and everything that's going on that side of the house. It just looked like a better plan to go to the other side. It's way higher. There's not near the runoff. There's really no issues on that side of the property. And it just looked like a better plan for me, and the neighbor to the east of us is, I'm just looking to get back there the best way I can with the least amount of problems or issues.
Staff comments.
I think we have some comments from the public probably in here.
I'll just give a little bit of background on
Oh,
this. Our driveway expansion ordinance is just kind of not written for these types of driveway expansions. It's written for someone who needs one extra spot. So it's designated opposite the front door. You put one extra spot. You do a curb cut if necessary, those types of things. When this one came in, we just didn't really know how to handle it. It doesn't really meet the guidelines because it's a different kind of project. So that's why you're seeing it tonight. Oh, and then, I'm sorry, one other thing. As Mr. Sebastian had told us, there was right-of-way existed on the back of his property that he intended to access the detached garage from. That right-of-way has been abandoned, so he's looking for another access.
Thank you.
I think the city attorney has some comments he wants to. Ernest, do you want to be first?
I just want to make sure that the commission is aware of the kind of the history of this, because I know it traditionally planning commissioners like to know if someone's committed an ordinance violation or has been cited for an ordinance violation. These pictures that you see, the first three pictures were actually taken on June 3rd. The other picture that you see was taken when code enforcement wrote a citation on June 15th. I just wanted to put on the record that Mr. Sebastian was told by myself and by Mr. Finley, Neighborhood Services, that he could not put gravel down, and he did so anyway. He was given a notice to remove the gravel. He would be written a citation into court. He was advised at that time he could apply for a variance. He did neither. So a ticket was written. That ticket is still pending in court. I did tell Mr. Sebastian we would move his case off until he had an opportunity to apply for a variance. Long story short, he didn't apply for a variance till after he put the gravel down, and he'd been cited into court. So I just wanted to make the Planning Commission aware of that, as is normally done whenever someone has a code violation. We normally make the Planning Commission aware.
You want to talk about vacating the public right of way?
There was discovered that there was a plat that was filed, I believe, in 1964, that there was actually a platted street that, if you go back, you can see 2242, those three lots that ran between those three lots and the two lots to the north. The city council passed an ordinance actually on June 10th. It went to committee on June 2nd, and he put the gravel down the next day, but the city council passed the ordinance vacating that right of way of June 10th. The reason they did that was because there was a concern of him using that to access his property, and the owners of 2242 are actually here, and I believe they're going to speak as well. So Mr. Finley and I met with Mr. Sebastian. I don't know if it's once or twice, but we met with him and told him that if he wanted to access the back of his property, that he would have to go to the east side by ordinance or ask for a variance. Instead, he put gravel down, as you can see, that goes to the west side, right along the boundary between him and his neighbors. I've also received information that he's been parking back there, which parking in the backyard's not allowed. My understanding is his variance request is only for the location of the drive, but that he's not asking for a variance for the paving. So if the variance was granted, he would be required to pave it, wouldn't be allowed to be gravel in any event. But I just wanted to make the planning commission aware that this has been there for 3 months.
Hi, my name is Vale Black, and I live at 2242. And I have some drainage pictures I've made copies of if someone can, for you all to see.
Did you submit them to us electronically already?
No.
Okay. Katie's gonna come get them.
Okay. So Mark and Melody Sebastian have applied for a driveway variance, and you know, as procedure, we're notified and given an opportunity for input. I would just like to say that we have not initiated anything. We are only responding. And that if we're allowed to give our opinion that we do not want the drive on our side of the house, you can see in those pictures, and I understand their point, and I can empathize that there is a lot of water that comes off the mountain. However, as you can see, that is not minimal drainage on our side. It's like a small river. And it concerns me having another paved surface angling towards the property. The drive on his side of the house is already partially paved, and it's paved past the tree. And I totally understand the concerns about the drive, but he's got cement on one side of his house already. I know when they expanded Wagon Wheel, they took all of our trees on our front yard, and we try every year to plant a new tree. So I would suggest planting some more trees. It appears that in the property records, his driveway is already over 2,300 square feet, which seems like plenty to park vehicles to me. And that we live in a low-density residential area. And my concern is that Mr. Sebastian intends to use the drive for possibly trailers or work equipment, and that we're zoned residential.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience?
I'm Bruce Applegate. I live at 5140 Callahan Mountain Road, which is part of the Mount Callahan subdivision. As Mr. Kate mentioned, on May 17th, Mr. Sebastian came before the Committee of the Whole of the City Council and wanted the city to pave that 30-foot wide street dedicated as shown. I attended that meeting, and during that meeting and in a subsequent conversation, Mr. Sebastian said that he was actually wanting to put his concrete business equipment back behind his house, and that essentially nobody was going to stop him. He was going to do what he wanted to do. As Mr. Kate mentioned, the ordinance was passed or recorded on June 10th that vacated and abandoned that dedicated public street. And so a few days later, Mr. Sebastian laid down the crushed rock. And then the citation and summons was issued after that. Mr. Cates covered that. So anyway, we're back here with another step in the incremental plan seeking a variance. I'm one of several residents of the Mount Callahan subdivision. Some of those residents are here tonight. Others that I've spoken with are not. My wife and I have lived here for 38 years. When the city wanted to widen Wagon Wheel Road from 2 lanes to 5, we were concerned about commercial zoning encroaching on our residential neighborhood at that time. As I recall, at that time, Mrs. Patsy Christie assured us that commercial zoning would not be allowed west of Robbins Road or east of 40th Street. I note that the pictures submitted by Mr. Sebastian don't show the Blacks' home. They're just right outside of the field of view, and their east windows are outside of the view. Heavy equipment between those two houses would be very disturbing. And I note that before he put the gravel down, Mr. Sebastian had, I think it's called a skid loader or a front loader, parked around on that north side of his house. He has a masonry business, mobile masonry, I believe it's called. And so we think that's what he really intends to put in that in that north side of his house. So anyway, his statements and act first and ask permission later attitude has all of us residents convinced that he's going to be running his business and storing his mobile masonry equipment behind his house. He's given no indication that he wants to join our subdivision as a new neighbor. Instead, he comes doing what he wants to do until thwarted by ordinances and codes. And it appears to us that he wants to run his business and stage his equipment at this residential location. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience?
Jerry White, and I'm 2174 Wagon Wheel Road. I'm his east neighbor. And never heard like story what I heard tonight. Anyhow, me and him conversed quite a bit. The machinery that they're talking about, that big, he rents him. You can't take him home and store with him. He has got small machinery. It's not a skidder. I don't know where he got that at. It's a little Bobcat. And that's why he's building the building and put it on that side. And the rain, I didn't see y'all show any deal of rain between mine and his house. Hers is a river. If it is, mine's the ocean. If you look at the pictures. And that's the most feasible place to make a road. I mean, I'm his neighbor. I don't want all that stuff either, but, you know, he owns the land. We're going to tell him what to do with his place. You know, my land, come on. It's still America, ain't it? And these people that coming up here, they've been here a long time. I've been there 9 years. And I had no conflict with nothing else. He's no conflict, him and his wife. We talk all the time. And he's just trying to put him building back there. If it has to come on my side, good deal. He's entitled to it, you know. I'm not going to stop him, but I'm just saying that's the feasible to go around the other way. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I apologize for any inconsistencies that I may have done. I did. I moved here. I bought my house in December. I bought it with the reasonable understanding that there was a 30-foot street. It was a platted street. It was just undeveloped, and that got shut down and closed. I mean, it was platted. It was just never used, so it got taken away. And I get that and understand that. But I did move here in December, bought my house, and I've, just like anybody, I got a dream of putting my garage in the back of my house and getting my stuff out of the storage building and doing all those things. And that all was a process. It sure was. When I first moved there, I did park a piece of equipment. I planned on taking off grass. I planned on preparing the site and all that. I've tried to do some remodeling, and I think that most of this stuff that was just said is just untrue. I am very sorry for putting down that gravel. Lord, if I knew it was going to be what it turned into be, I promise you I never would have done that. I would like to say this also. If I'm doing work, and this is exactly how this shook out. I'm remodeling my house. I got most of the front of it done, and I needed to remodel the backyard. I mean, the back two rooms of the house. Well, I've been waiting since December to get some of this stuff done because driving to around the back of the house, I don't want to go to that right side over my tree roots, all that. So I knew that I was going to have to get around to the left side of my house. I have always known and understood that gravel cannot be a permanent anything in your yard. I know that. But at the time, I was still doing things and trying to get things done that didn't require a permit. I'm just trying to get around to the side of my house without making mud and ruts and all that good stuff. But I've known that can't be a permanent solution to my problem. I've understood that, and I've been very clear on that. At every branch that I've been to, any person that I've talked to, I have told them I understand the mistake of putting down the gravel prematurely. I get it. There is nothing that really covers my dilemma. So if I'm doing some remodeling in the back of my house and I maybe am bringing a roll-off dumpster and I'm going to have some vehicles coming around the side of my house doing work, there's really no permit that's provided for a temporary, man, I just don't want a mud road going around the side of my house while I'm doing any kind of improvements or whatever. And there's really nothing to cover that. I mean, it's either I can do the work in the back of my home, drive through there exactly where I put down the gravel and make ruts and just cause more problems and more unsightly issues. That's all that I was trying to prevent. I thought there was something that I could get done in between time, uh, until my variance was cleared and I was cleared for my driveway and all that. And like I said, I do apologize for putting that down. And judge gives me a ticket, I get it. I deserve it and I understand. In comments to that last gentleman, I don't know that gentleman. That gentleman, every time I've been to a city council meeting, to this meeting, he's walked up to me in my backyard while I'm mowing and tried to talk to me. It seems like he's involved in a lot of stuff. He was even commenting on the other stuff on Wagon Wheel Road on storage buildings. And I don't really know what my driveway has to do with what he's doing. The statement of I'm going to put a commercial business there, I don't, that's a lie. That's a lie. I've never said that. Even due to my plans that I turn in, I even turned in kind of my plan and layout for the building that I want to build. And it's on, I mean, I believe the square footage allowable for a building is 1,500 square foot. I'm only asking for 1,200 square foot building. I would just generally, I would think anybody that was trying to do a commercial endeavor and do all that would ask for a maximum square footage on their outbuilding, and I'm not. I don't need 1,500. I just need 1,200. And I mean, that's really all I got to say to that. They have only based that thought or decision because I feel like it's something they found out about me that just helps their argument. Oh, this guy's got a masonry business, so he's obviously bought this property on Wagon Wheel Road to try to turn it commercial or try to do those kind of things. And let me just tell you how that played out. We put in probably a dozen and a half offers on homes, and we all got, in my price range of what we were buying, we got bought out by cash buyers. I mean, that house was the very first house that we even got an opportunity to buy that the deal before us fell through and that we didn't get bought out by a cash buyer. We were lucky to get the house. We're glad to be here. I know there's issues that concern everybody and, you know, I want to be a good steward in Springdale. Uh, you know, we're just trying to live our dream like anybody else. But I will say emphatically, have no intentions, no desires to place a commercial business endeavor of any kind. If it's been construed to that, I think it's just from, you know, a little gossip and a little, I don't know, just people throwing in things to defend their position, but it's just not true. Thank you.
Thank you. To the commission. Be a call for the vote unless there's any comments. Call for the vote. Call for the vote by Mr. Covert.
Compton,
No.
Covert,
No.
David,
No.
Mueller, Parsley,
No.
Peters, Tyler,
No.
Austin,
This does not pass 8-0.
Have the right to appeal this, plan commission's denial. It has to be done through the circuit court.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. This is not the zoning ordinance, it's a different one. You have the right to appeal to city council. That appeal has to be filed within 30 days to the, city clerk.
Next item on the agenda, B 21-66, Melissa and Stephen Hotchkiss. 3409 Falcon Road, variance for deviation of paving requirement, gravel on west side, presented by Melissa and Stephen Hotchkiss.
Hi, I'm Melissa Hotchkiss, and my husband.
Stephen Hotchkiss.
We're at 3409 Falcon Road. We've been in our residence for almost 23 years. We are trying to get a variation on our west side gate. Through the years that we've been there, the other surrounding properties kind of angle in and we end up having a massive mud pit. On our side, there also is at the front of our property on that west side is also all of the city utilities. The water main is directly behind us. There's a lot of utilities. AT&T runs directly through that. Our water main, a large tree. If these city utilities have to access the manhole in our neighbor's yard behind us in 3408, excuse me, my voice is really raspy. They would have to and have had to come through our side gate and take down the fence behind us in order to access the manhole because they do have a pool back there. We are trying to do, we started my husband had a great idea. We have a camper that we have used in that side gate, but again, through the years of drainage it's a mud pit. So we are trying to raise it up and level it so that our camper sits on a level pad. We do not park there normally. We do have our pad comes in front of our gate, just the width of our, or length of our truck so that we can access and load and unload on a level and then come off and park on our driveway.
Staff comments?
And you want it to remain gravel, you don't want to pack it. Right?
Yes.
It's a specific type of gravel. It's really not gravel like dusty gravel.
Grit. It's packed down real tight.
It's what they would use for like campgrounds. He did a bunch of research and if we would have to utilize or dig underneath, if they had to access lines underneath there. And it does not come all the way to the street. It does not come in front of our neighbor's garage. We did submit pictures as well. Our neighbor actually has a gravel drive access right beside where we have. Do you have those pictures?
Yeah, they're in here.
It does not come in front of our drive or our garage or our neighbor's garage.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience?
Hi, I'm Ann Justice and Gary Justice. We live at 3405 Falcon. And we've lived there since like 1983. And their house always looks really nice. I mean, it doesn't come out far. It's really kind of like it's chat. So if you wet it down, it would be kind of like concrete.
Just a few feet in front of their back fence, really, where it comes out.
So if
It's not like a driveway, it's,
it's just small. So if you're worried about like, the looks of it or whatever, it looks very nice. And, like we on that street, we've lived there, we've outlived everybody on that street. So we've been there forever. So, I just don't see a problem
we don't
with-
have a problem with it. They always keep their house neat, trimmed, the yard, the backyard. I mean, when you drive by there, it's always neat. And the way they did the gravel is very neat too.
Yeah, because it's not real gravel. It's
No,
more,
it's more like almost like a concrete. And it doesn't come out very far in front of their backyard fence. It's just out a little ways. It's not like it's a big driveway or anything.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I was gonna say too, in the pictures that we had put in, it's got like landscape timbers around it that are pressure treated. And there is a really good slope at the front, but our intent is to add fill dirt and sod to level that up. So around that tree in the front yard, again, with the irrigation or the runoff from the soil in the backyard and everything, that the soil would bring that up level with that, and you would not really see it at all.
Great. Thank you. To the commission.
I just had a quick question. Generally, about approximately how many square feet are you talking?
Say that again.
How many square feet are you talking for
In front of the fence,
for what you're requesting? Yeah.
it's like 15 in front of our fence.
Okay. So is it 15 like in total that you're looking?
No,
there's
it is 10, 20, 30. Just in front of the fence is, about 15 feet. Just in front of the fence itself and then back
The
behind.
width of our double gate, 15 forward.
Yeah,
enough.
about wide enough for a truck and
Okay.
side to
The
side,
length.
front to back.
And then it'll be filled in with grass or with dirt and grass at the front.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Be a call for the vote. Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
No.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
This passes 7-1. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, P 21-67, Dennis and Leslie Holland, 919 East Apple Blossom Avenue, variance for deviation of side setback from 15 feet to 10 feet, presented by Dennis Holland.
Dennis Holland, 919 East Apple Blossom Avenue.
Well, tell us a little bit about the reason for the setback.
Well, I thought the setback was 8 feet according to the municipal code. Because no one gave me any information on the actual setback. The 15 feet is from a plat from 1993, the original plat for that development, that subdivision.
This property was originally in Bethel Heights.
Yes.
Originally in Bethel Heights and was platted with a 15-foot side setback at the
Right.
time it was platted.
Right.
Okay. Ed, do you have some comments about this one?
Mr. Holland started working on this project
I think code enforcement went out there and he was putting down some gravel and he told him that was the building foundation. And so so he called us out. Tom Evers with our department went out there and he advised them they needed a building permit.
He
At
never
that
did
point-
that.
Huh?
No. I have a letter from Tom Evers. Tom Evers never came to my home.
Okay, I may have got that wrong. He may have advised you that you needed a building permit.
That's
So
all he said, was I needed a permit.
we needed a
Permit is
building permit,
required.
And through that process, we discovered that on the plat, we have no problem with an 8-foot setback, 10-foot setback.
When we were discussing, but the thing is, I got the letter, I tried to contact Tom. And then he tried to call me, so we played phone tag, and then when I called again, he was on vacation. So the contractors for the building that I was putting up, which is just basically an enclosed carport. There's no utilities or anything for the building. It's just a storage building for my RV and my boat. But he was out of town. They said, well, we can put it up. I said, so then I went to the municipal code, saw 8 foot. So I thought, okay, I'm within, the setback. But then we had to go on the county website to find the old original plat. I did some research and I found it, and it was 15 feet. But there's no, easement on that side, and there's a church next to me. If you look at that lot 103, I don't know what that is in between. There's like, you can only imagine it was like an alleyway or something like that, but that's what happened.
Great.
So then I submitted my application, then he found the 15-foot setback, so then I applied for the variance.
Any other comments? Yeah. Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Call for the vote. A call for the vote, then Mr. Covert.
David,
No.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert.
Yes.
This variance passes 7-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item B, 21-68, Efren and Maria Anaya, 757 Golden Meadow Avenue, variance for deviation of front setback from 30 feet to 20 feet, presented by Efren Anaya.
My name is Efrain Anaya.
My apologies for pronouncing your first name wrong.
And I'm Cindy Uribe, his daughter.
So can you tell us a little bit about the need for this front setback?
He's just wanting a porch. And since we couldn't do it, on the back side, we're requesting it on the side.
Okay.
Actually, it has
3.
because it's special, it has all the way around.
Mhm.
So the variance that you're asking for is on the street side.
Yes.
And you're adding is it a covered porch or is it just a flat?
Just a slab.
Any other comments? Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission?
You have fencing on the Almond side?
Yes.
You have fencing to go between the house and the street?
Mhm.
And what height is that, do you know?
I think it's 6 foot.
6 foot, okay.
Be a call for the vote. Call for vote by Mrs. Mueller.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
This passes 8-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, B 21-69, Alejandro Torres, 715 Crutcher Street, variance for deviation front setback from 40 feet to 30 feet, presented by Alejandro Torres or Eric Hernandez.
Hi, Alejandro Torres on 715 Crutcher Street. And we ask for a variance for deviation of front setback
from 40 feet to 30 feet.
Ed, can you explain to us how we have a 40-foot front setback, because we don't normally have 40?
I think there was a misinterpretation of what our inspector went out there and advised them. When we do something with a curb, generally 40 feet back a curb is about the same thing as a 30-foot front setback. He needs to find his pins because it appears that the house is closer than 30 feet from his property. Then we can decide how big of a variance he needs. Without a survey and without any idea of where the pins are, we have no idea of whether he can build or not.
Okay, and then you also indicated that you thought it's a non-conforming use.
Yeah, that's been there long before that house has been there long before zoning. So the house itself being too close to the road would be not a non-conforming use, but a non-conforming setback.
Okay, but then we would be making the non-conformity worse than it is now if we allow this to go.
That's why he has to ask permission.
Okay, so it's an expansion of a non-conforming, making it more. Do you have to put it in the front? Can you not put it in the back?
Lo voy a poner atrás, ¿no? Yes, we're going to put it in the back.
Okay, are you adding on to the front of the structure or to the back?
¿Van a agregar enfrente o atrás? In the back of the building.
Okay,
If we add to the back of the building, I'm not the residential guy, but if we're adding to the back of the building, I guess he's adding to a nonconformity. So all he would need is an ability from the planning commission to add to a nonconformity.
right. which
It's
is a
less
different
than
request.
whatever the percentage is here got me. Disadvantage.
We really need to know the dimensions, because this has a corner lot that would have two fronts. So we would have 30 on Crutcher and 30 on Hart. And depending on what you're doing and what the size is, that, you have a survey of the property?
Trae una.
I mean, it's something you need to come by the office and we need to sit down and look at it based on some real dimensions.
So from Hart Avenue to the house, that's 31 feet.
Okay? And he wants to build inside that 31 feet on the Hart Avenue side?
Quiere construir dentro de esos 31 pies. Yes.
Okay. Is that on a survey or what he measured?
No, it's on the survey.
Okay. We need to come by the office and we need to sit down and use that drawing to determine how much you're really asking. We need to table this to next month and come up with some better information of what's being done. So he needs to come by the office, bring a copy of this survey so we can look at it. And the dimensions of what he wants to add needs to be drawn on that survey.
Aquí están las
Exactly.
dimensiones. Y luego el cuarto. Norte.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Tenemos que poner una referencia.
Next item on the agenda, B 21-70, Marco and Angela Valdez, 3027 Shiraz Lane, variance for deviation of rear setback from 20 feet to 10 feet, presented by Marco Valdez or Jasmine Acosta.
My name is Jasmine Acosta, and he's my father, Marco, and we're in 3027 Shiraz Lane.
Okay,
What are you wanting to do?
He wants to make a pool, but it said it had to have the 20 feet in the back, and he wanted to lower it to 10 feet. That way it won't be too small.
Okay, will he be in that 20-foot utility easement in the back part of that property? Because
Sorry?
you can't build in the utility easement unless it's been vacated.
I think we saw another, I don't know if it was a survey, it said it was able to do 10 feet, because the utility was on the other side, on the other house. It wasn't on our property.
I'm sorry, is that one where it's 10? Included with your application shows that there is a 20-foot utility easement, which is 6 foot on each side. And you're going to get the pool not in that 10 feet.
Yeah, we wanted to do it in the 10 feet.
Okay, in that 10-foot utility easement back there?
I think so. There's a 10 feet utility, but they wanted the 20.
How close to the fence do you want to get the pool?
He wanted to do the 10 feet, But if it's not possible, he'll probably do the 12 feet. If that's possible.
Okay, so he could stay out of the rear utility easement with the pool, but it's still closer than 20 feet
Yeah,
because he wants to do it at 12, so that's an 8.
yeah.
Okay, we're speculating. Do you have a drawing that shows that? Here again, we're doing a speculation.
He had a drawing. I don't know. We sent it out to the to be up here. I don't know if you guys have it there.
Have we seen one? I don't think we got a copy of the drawing. That's really what we need to make a determination. Do you have a survey of the property that shows that?
No, we don't.
We have a sketch where something was drawn on an aerial or drawn on a drawing, but we don't have the actual dimension.
No tienes donde tiene las dimensiones. No, we don't have that.
Okay. What we will need is a scale drawing to show where you want to put it so we can determine what kind of variance, if you need one. You
Okay.
need to put together a scale drawing of, you got an existing building back there. Is it permanent or is it?
It's a storage.
Is it, can it be moved or is it on a concrete slab?
No, it's not.
It can be moved?
Yeah.
Okay, so we just show wherever that's, but we need a drawing with actual dimensions so we can see what variance you actually need. So you need to bring the drawing and come back next time. You need to come by the office with the drawing and let us go through that, see if we can figure
So
that
the
out.
the one that he made is not that
Well,
won't be
it doesn't
useful.
show any dimensions of what the pool looks like, what the distance is to the back of the house, the distance to the structures that is there. I mean, we can't really make a determination because we don't have the actual size of the pool itself to see that it'll fit. Are you working with a pool company? Oh, okay. Then you need to do a scale drawing for us for sure.
Because we have this one. I don't know if I'm able to show it to you guys. I don't know if it's the same one that you guys have there.
What we have is just a copy of the aerial with some drawings on it that shows the 10-foot with a little square on it, and that was it.
Because I have the one that has like the measurements on the house and then how much the measurements will be for the pool.
Okay, we're not gonna stand here and do all
Okay.
this tonight. You need to bring it by the office and we will, hear this again next month.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, B 21-73, Springdale School District number 50, 1498 East Emma Avenue, variance for deviation of minimum distance between drives on a single tract from 150 feet to 75 feet, presented by ESI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Apple with ESI. Here representing the school district, we're trying to improve the front half of 1499, or I guess from the front door to Emma, with two driveways. Currently there's two, they're 47 feet apart. And I think we can get them to around 75 feet apart. So that's the variance request.
Staff comments?
We looked at this very extensively, tried to see if we could come up with some other way to make this work. And with the way they use the property and the trucks that have to back in and out of this facility, I think this is probably the best we can do. Unless they acquire some more property and then we'll look at it again.
Correct.
Any questions or comments from the audience?
Hi, I'm Mary Wolford. I own the property at 1556A. I did call to see if I could find out more about this variance. I just want to know how that's going to affect my ability to access my property at 1556A, which I have owned previously with my husband for about 15 years. At the time when we bought it was very industrial. The other buildings were mainly just shop buildings. We put a brick front on our building and tried to maintain it to be a little nicer. So my question is, how is that going to affect my ability? Because right now I have no driveway. And when we bought the property, all 4 of these came in right at that line. And they have fenced the property, which I'm still able to access, but I just need to know if I'm gonna have to build a driveway to my own property that I've been able to access for 15+ years.
Do you have a written access easement with the previous owner of this property before the school district bought it? Because
I'm
it
not
looks like
sure.
you shared a driveway for a long time.
Yes,
But there was no written document
I
to
don't
allow
believe so.
access. Okay. And
We
then-
actually purchased this property from Arvest. It was a property that went back to them.
Did you
and-
purchase it before or after the school district bought the property
Oh,
adjacent?
yes, we've owned it for 15 years, Wolford
Okay.
Rentals, yes.
Okay. They're not proposing any changes to the driveway on that side. That will stay at the location that it is now. I would suggest that you get with the school district and work out an access easement for both of you to continue to use that. And they're proposing the other driveway to be on the west side. Jason, am I correct?
Shifting the west driveway further west away, but the driveway on your side remain where it's at. We're just proposing to pay it.
Okay.
My only concern, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? To the commission?
Call for the vote.
We have a call for the vote by Mr. Covert.
Parsley,
Yes.
Peters, Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mueller.
Passes 8-0. Thank you. Next item, B 21-74, Anthony and Marco Vasquez, 2617 Fruitley Avenue, variance for deviation of driveway requirements expanding towards the front door, presented by Anthony and Marco Vasquez.
Hi, Anthony Vasquez, 2617 Fruit Tree Avenue, Springdale, Arkansas. We're wanting to widen our driveway to be able to accommodate a 3rd vehicle going across. At the moment, we're able to fit 4 vehicles just fine, but we do have a 5th vehicle and a 6th vehicle that we're looking to purchase soon. And just parking on the street at the moment is not very ideal, creates many problems. So we're really just hoping to get an approval for that expansion.
Staff comments?
Katie, you want to address this one?
Sure. So they did come into the office and applied for a driveway expansion permit, and we approved the portion on the side opposite the front door. But we told them that if they wanted to do an expansion on, they're proposing expansions on both sides of the drive. I'm sorry, I don't remember the dimensions off the top of my head, but we just told them for the side closer to the front door, it would require a variance, but we would grant approval for the other side.
So the side on the driveway side, there's no variance required for that, and they can make that expansion.
Yes, they are permitted to expand the driveway to
Okay.
the side opposite the front door.
And how wide do you want to make the expansion on the other side in front of the front door?
No more than 4 or 5 feet.
And how many cars wide are you going to be parking on there?
3 in total.
So then if you park them too deep, you can put 6 cars on there?
Correct.
So if you grant this variance to allow them to expand towards the front door, they still would have to meet the other requirements that you may not pave over 40% of your front yard, and you have to stay 3 foot off of your property line. And you can't have a driveway that's wider than 40 maximum.
So have you calculated whether you would be at 40% if you pave all that?
Yes, we did calculate.
You will be above 40%?
No, we will be below 40.
A lot of pavement.
Any questions or comments from the audience? To the commission? Call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote by Mr. Covert.
Peters, Tyler,
No.
Austin, Compton,
No.
Covert,
No.
David,
No.
Mueller. Parsley.
No. This does not pass 6-2.
I
And-
believe this is a variance request that can be appealed to the city council because this is in chapter 114. You have to file your appeal of the planning commission's denial to the city council within 30 days.
30 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, B 21-75, Jose Jesus Martinez, 3805 Kelly Avenue, variance for deviation of utility requirement, presented by Stephanie.
That's the one we just,
Yeah, we've
Sorry.
already done that.
we tabled that one with the food truck.
It's been a long night.
It's been a long night, yes.
B 21-77, Andy Chen, PSC Indoor Soccer, Highway 412 and Crossover Road, variance for deviation, commercial design standards. Facades and exterior walls, detail features, materials, and color, presented by Harrison French and Associates.
Hello, guys. I'm Lori Philbeck with Harrison French. It's a long night, so I'm going to go ahead and be succinct here. This is a new potential indoor soccer complex for Springdale, which could be a really great opportunity for us. Because it is a clear span requirement for a soccer field, the metal building is really the best way to do the structure. And because of that, a metal panel is really the best option for a metal building, other than building a second structure outside of it to support any other material. So what we are proposing are some waivers from 3 of the design standards. The first one being the development of this facade over 100 feet with depth recesses, a minimum of 3 feet. We have the required number of recesses on 3 of the facades. They just don't go 3 feet deep because of the inherent structural quality of a metal building. We have done inline girts and outside girts, which really provides about 8 inches of depth, but it does give some texture to the building over the 3 facades. And the facade that does not have any recesses is on the east side, which abuts against the I'm sorry, I heard Andy and I just came up. I apologize. Is this for the soccer complex? Oh, okay. That's not our property, so I'm not sure what you're looking at there. Oh, okay.
One of the problems with a large scale is it has a parking issue.
Correct.
And you're wanting them to review the building facade variances without seeing the entire package.
Correct. As it was discussed when another project came up, they were asking to have the large scale approved or looked at, and then the variances picked up, and you said you could do it the other way around. I was thinking, well, that's great, because that's how we're looking at it. We understand that we are not quite meeting the parking requirements as of the last submittal. The owner has since purchased or is in the process of purchasing property to the east of his property. It's the kind of north section of a salvage yard that is kind of a landlocked piece of land. And so he's purchasing that so that he can meet the parking requirement. In the meantime, we want to see what you all thought of the building that we submitted. We provided elevations and video walkthrough so that you could see what it looked like to approach the building and walk inside of the building and see that it's a nice building. It's not, just a metal building. It's got some texture on the front. It's got some windows on all 3 sides. It's got, doors and canopies and all of the things that you're asking for, except that it's got metal panel, which is not one of your predominantly approved materials.
And I agree, it's come a long way. It's just hard to ask this body to do a variance without seeing the complete package. And that's one of the reasons why I'm surprised you still want to push this tonight without having the entire package, since we've had some already. Are you anticipating resubmitting that soon so that we can hear it in October?
Yes, we thought we would be able to make it to the next one, but I'm not sure if the survey got done in time. So it may not make it to the October Planning Commission meeting. It may end up in the November. But we are shooting as hard as we can to get meet the date needed to submit for the October.
They've come a long ways. Good. I just think it's unfair as you guys to look at it.
No, I would agree. I mean, this is consistent with the others. I mean, except the opposite on this one. And then I would like to know more when you guys do come back about the parking situation.
They've got to meet the parking requirements. We've been around
Yep.
that a couple of times, and I can tell you they've gone an extra mile to create the
Well,
parking.
it's not only the
lots.
parking that I would have a concern with, it's also the ingress egress from 265 right there. Because of how close it is as far as the auto repair place, and then also you've got the come and go that's right there as well. I mean, that's very close.
We've
I anticipate
looked
there's
at
gonna be a
all those-
variance.
We've looked at all those factors. We've addressed most of those. It's the number of parking spaces right now. Problem. But, you know, there's an access easement. It's already there. They have one access off the
Okay.
drive. We've addressed that. It's just right now the number of parking spaces. And they've done a good job of trying to address the commercial design standards. I can tell you that. And I think when you see it as a complete package, you'll get a better understanding. Because you're proposing even some landscaping.
Oh,
on the
yes.
Side that doesn't have the breaks in it to kind of help address some of that. So it's a complete package.
So are you good with tabling this until we get the full large scale?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, 21-14, Andy and Randy Brown, 2350 North 48th Street, waiver sidewalk requirement presented by Andy and Randy Brown.
Hi.
And I'm sorry that you're the last to go. and-
It's okay. So we are wanting to build, or we are building a house here on 48th Street. And Tom and the guy that came out and approved us to do our footings, I can't remember his name. He suggested we come here for our sidewalk because there is a humongous ditch in front of our property that is 11 feet wide and 7 feet deep. And there's really nowhere for the sidewalk to go. If we were to put it out there, it would be on the other side of the ditch, according to our pin. And then if we moved it forward where you want it to go in the 4 feet or 5 feet or whatever, then it's going to be right in the middle of the ditch. And even if we built it up to put it there, at the end of the sidewalk, it's going to be a 7-foot drop. And there's no sidewalks anywhere around us. So it just makes no sense.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I don't normally recommend to approve waivers. But this is a situation where constructing it does create a challenge. Would you be willing to make payment in lieu of improvements, whatever the cost of the sidewalk would be, and then when the road's improved, that money would come into it and you're done with it?
Whatever the cost, what, I mean, like what?
Whatever the footage is, the full length, and what do we do? Rick, what's the dollar figure, you know?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
We calculate a square footage cost for installation sidewalk, and it's whatever the distance is, the length of your property. This has to go to planning commission. 40 cents a square foot? Okay.
So, but even, I mean, I know the rules are the rules, but even if you come and put a sidewalk in, it is like way far away. I mean,
Well,
it just doesn't.
And it's supposed to be
matter.
4
It-
feet off of the curb?
The city wouldn't be putting one in until the road improvements are done and the curb and gutter and the drainage and all
Oh.
that's being done at that time. I'm just asking you if that's an option. If you want us to address
I
the
mean, if
waiver,
that's what we have to
we
do, then
can,
that's
we
what
can
need to
address the
do.
waiver. This goes to city council. They have to make that decision anyway.
But is
Okay.
it 4 feet off of the curb where the sidewalk's supposed to start?
Depends on
Yeah.
Because that's not even our property out there.
it would have to be within the right of way
Okay.
because it'd be public sidewalk.
Okay.
You have the option as far as we can hear it as is, or you can do payment in lieu of.
If you want to leave it like it is, it will go to council. City council has to make the determination whether it can be waived or not. Because if it is waived, then the taxpayers pick up the cost of that sidewalk. And only city council can make that determination. So that's why it has to go to council.
Okay,
You
we'll
want
do
to
that.
just leave it like it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This would be a motion to whatever your recommendation is to council.
So what is the next steps we do?
Hold on a minute, we got to vote first.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Recommendation?
Motion to move forward with recommendation as city council.
To grant the waiver?
Grant the waiver, yes, ma'am.
I have a motion and recommendation by Mr. Covert. Second by Mrs. Mueller.
Tyler,
Yes.
Austin, Compton,
Yes.
Covert,
Yes.
David,
No.
Mueller, Parsley,
Yes.
Peters.
This waiver passes 7-1.
So the recommendation to the city council will be to waive the requirement for sidewalks. Like I said, they have to make that determination. That recommendation will go to council on the 28th.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Planning Director report?
The planning commission, the council approved the rezonings on West End and 264. They approved the 2 tandem lot splits that were submitted last time. The waiver, as we recommended for the improvements to Howard Anderson and Butterfield Code Road in connection with Whispering Springs. They approved the ordinance to allow variances to be appealed to the city council. That will go into effect with the next meeting because that was without an emergency clause, so it didn't go into effect until 30 days after that, which makes it the 10th or the 11th. So the next set of zoning ordinance variances will be allowed to be appealed to city council. They approved grant applications for Luther George Park and for the Greenway Market, appointed a new member to the Housing Authority. The next work session will be September 21st. And as we kind of discussed loosely at the last meeting, we're setting the time at 5 p.m. so you don't have to remember 2 separate times and trying to remember which meeting this is. So it'll be at 5 o'clock. Okay. We will go over that, have a presentation of some additional materials for the multifamily residential projects and the residential land uses for the comprehensive land use plan, 21st. Right now, we're set to do it in our office. Yes, that seemed to work pretty good. If we have too many people, we may have to move it someplace else. But right now, we're going to do it in my office.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it.
That's all I
Thank
have.
everyone. Long meeting, but we're going to eat well with a lot of
Yeah.
food
We got
food
more
trucks
options
on there.
for food.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.